Chapter 716. Dad has a good thing for you. Qin Haodong turned his wrist, and the flaming crystal appeared in his palm. Out of the innate instinct of the Suzaka's sacred body, the little fellow immediately showed great interest in this small stone, and reached out to grab it in her palm. If ordinary people held this kind of stone in their hands, they would immediately be burned into charcoal. Even Qin Haodong had to wrap it tightly with genuine qi. But when Tang Tang held it in her hand, not only was there no problem, but she also felt extremely comfortable. Papa, this little stone is so cute. Give it to me. The little fellow held the flaming crystal, and couldn't bear to put it down. Qin Haodong said, Tang Tang, this is not how to use it. That's not how you use this stone. It can help your flames level up. Really? Papa, teach me how to use it. The little fellow didn't know much about upgrading, but she knew that the way her father gave her must be the best way. Qin Haodong asked the little fellow to sit cross-legged. He held the flaming crystal in his left palm, and began to run the mental cultivation method of the Eyes of Phoenix. The Eyes of Phoenix was a unique skill of the Yuan sect, which belonged to the magical cultivation method. This cultivation method could be used in both directions. When it was run forward, it could spit out fire, and when it was run backward, it could absorb all the fire energy. Situ Zhaixing first passed this cultivation method to Qin Haodong, who passed it on to the little fellow on behalf of his master, so he was extremely proficient in the attributes of this cultivation method. Under his guidance, the little guy began to hold his breath and absorb the scarlet flame crystal. Qin Haodong stood quietly beside her, guarding his daughter. As time went by, the flaming crystal in the little fellow's palm became smaller and smaller, and finally turned into a mass of powder with a snap. The hot energy inside had all been absorbed by Tang Tang. The little fellow slowly opened her eyes and said to Qin Haodong excitedly, Papa, I feel as if there are a lot more things in my body. It's warm and comfortable. That's because your flame has improved again. Qin Haodong set a defensive restriction on the wall of the practice room, and then said to the little fellow, Tang Tang, try it and see if the power of the flame has increased. Okay, Papa. The little fellow was still a child, and was already eager to try. When Qin Haodong finished, she immediately opened her little mouth, and spat out a phoenix-like flame. Previously, her flame had already been upgraded from an ordinary flame to an innate flame. The color of the flame had also changed from red to the innate flame's yellow color. This time, after absorbing the scarlet flame crystal, the level of his flame had greatly increased. Although it had yet to reach the blue level of the three true flame, the yellow flame was already faintly emitting a blue halo. It seemed that it was not far from the three true flame. The most important thing was that the increase in power was too great. After the flames were sprayed on the wall, they immediately heard a bang, and the restriction that Qin Haodong had set up was burned into nothingness. Fortunately, he was already prepared. He hurriedly made a hand seal, and laid down 3 restrictions in a row. Otherwise, this house would really be burnt down. Okay, Tang, the little fellow said. Qin Haodong hurriedly stopped the little fellow. Now he had experienced the power of this kind of flame. If it was a frontal attack, even his cultivation at the early stage of Yuanying realm might not be able to hold on for long. It seemed that the upgrade was very successful, which made Qin Haodong very happy. Because the little fellow was too young and immature, he had not been in a hurry to improve her cultivation. However, the upgrade of the flame was an opportunity that could only be encountered by chance. He had to seize it, otherwise it would be difficult to encounter it again in the future. Even so, the little fellow's strength was still terrifying. With the current Eyes of Phoenix, if she attacked with all her strength, no one below the 9th level of the Supreme Power Realm could resist her. After praising the little fellow, Qin Haodong told her not to use fire on others casually, and then took her out of the practice room. The next morning, after breakfast, the whole Tang sect was busy. Today was Chu Shanhe's 80th birthday. At the request of Chu Xianyue, Qin Haodong decided to take all the women to the birthday party, including the little fellow. Knowing that they were going to attend the party, the girls all dressed up. Firstly, women loved beauty. Secondly, although they all accepted each other's existence, they all had a faint sense of competition in their hearts. They were afraid that they would be outdone by others, so they dressed up very carefully. When these women appeared in front of Qin Haodong, he felt dizzy. At the same time, he felt very proud. Even the international model team was not as eye-catching as his women. They were both beautiful and had good figures. After 8 o'clock, a long motorcade drove into the Tang sect. The leader was Chu Xuanli, followed by Chu Xianming. The two of them were here to welcome Chu Xianyue back on behalf of the Chu family. The people of the Tang sect got into the cars. According to Qin Haodong's request, the motorcade did not drive directly back to the Chu family, but around the capital. There were as many as 100 cars in the motorcade prepared by Chu Xuanli, and each of them was a luxury car worth more than 5 million yuan. Wherever they passed, it immediately caused a sensation. People who did not understand asked about what had happened. Soon, the news that Chu Xianyue had been grandly taken back to the Chu family spread throughout the upper class of the capital. Many busybodies followed behind to watch the fun. It was not until 9 o'clock in the morning that the motorcade slowly drove to the Chu family's manor. At the gate of the manor, Chu Shanha, who was dressed in a red Tang suit, was waiting there. Beside him stood Chu Shanchuan and Chu Shanhai. Behind them were hundreds of disciples of the Chu family, including Chu Mingsong and Chu Mingjiao. After standing for a few minutes, Chu Mingsong said discontentedly, "He really thinks he's a big shot. He made so many of us wait for him here. I don't know what Grandpa was thinking. He actually agreed to such an unreasonable request." Chu Mingjiao also said sarcastically, "That's right. This kind of person is arrogant and has no respect for his elders. He doesn't know the rules at all. Our Chu family should not let him in." Although they did not mention Qin Haodong, the people around knew that she was talking about him. Chu Mingli and Chu Ming were standing next to her. After a few days of contact, they respected Qin Haodong more and more in their hearts. Chu Mingli said, "Cousin, you're wrong. Aunt was originally a member of our Chu family. Back then, we let her down and drove her out of the family. Now it's only right for us to take her back." Although Chu Mingsong was Chu Xuanming's son, he was the eldest grandson of the Chu family, because Chu Xianming had given birth very early. In addition, he was good at flattering others, so he was deeply loved by the old lady Jin Xiuying. He had developed a spoiled personality since he was a child. Now seeing that Chu Mingli dared to contradict him in public, he immediately shouted with a sullen face, "You've been in the Tang sect for a few days, and your temper has grown. You haven't learned anything else but that guy's arrogance. I'm your brother. How can you talk to me like that?" Chu Ming, who was outspoken, shouted, "I think you're the arrogant one. Cousin Haodong is a really capable person. He established the Tang sect with his own strength at a young age. Look at you. Apart from relying on your family to eat, drink, and gamble, what else can you do?" Seeing that her brother was being criticized, Chu Mingjiao also stood up and shouted rudely, "You little girl, what do you know? You've only been there for a few days, but you're already speaking up for that guy. Do you like that gigolo boy? Are you shameless?" Chu Minghui was a straightforward and hot-tempered person, but she was not as generous as Chu Mingli. She immediately retorted, "Chu Mingjiao, I think you're the shameless one. Do you think everyone else is as dirty as you? You've had more than a dozen abortions in your 20s. Are you shameless?" Although Chu Mingjiao was not married yet, her behavior was a mess. She was indeed like Chu Ming. Just like what Hui had said, she had had more than a dozen abortions in her 20s. However, this kind of thing was usually talked about in private. Now that it was pointed out in public, she could not bear it. Little b****, how dare you say that to me? Seeing the ridiculing eyes around her, Chu Mingjiao could no longer control herself and jumped at Chu Ming Hui. But now Chu Ming Hui was already at the 7th level of the Supreme Power Realm, so she did not take her seriously at all. She just raised her hand and slapped her away. This time, her high-heeled shoes were also broken. Her hair was disheveled and her face was covered with dirt. She looked like a ghost. Chu Shanha stood in front and was thinking about how to make Qin Haodong satisfied when he came. He did not expect that his backyard would be on fire before Qin Haodong arrived. Seeing that his sister was being beaten, Chu Mingsong was about to rush up to Chu Ming. Hui was about to make a move when she heard Chu Shanha shout angrily, "Everyone stop!" Seeing that their grandfather was really angry, the younger generation of the Chu family all trembled and stood there, not daring to speak. Chu Shanha looked at Chu Ming, Hui, and then at Chu Mingjiao. Hui then looked at Chu Mingjiao. "Tell me what's going on." Chu Minghui said first. "Grandpa, the two of them were insulting cousin Haodong here. We argued with him, but they beat me." Chu Shanha glanced at Chu Mingsong and Chu Mingjiao coldly. "Is that so?" Chu Mingjiao felt that she had been wronged. At home, she was usually very arrogant and spoiled by Chu Shanha. She got up from the ground and shouted, "Grandpa, why did that little bastard come back to our Chu family? I just said a few words. What's wrong with that? Why did she hit me?" As soon as she said this, there was a bang and Chu Mingjiao's body flew out again. This time, she flew farther and fell harder than last time. But this time, it was not Chu Ming. It was Chu Shanha himself. Chu Mingsong originally wanted to say a few words, but when he saw that his grandfather was really angry, he immediately shut his mouth and did not dare to say a word. Chu Shanha had spent a lot of effort to invite Qin Haodong back to the Chu family. How could he allow these ignorant juniors to destroy his plan? He said sternly, "I tell you, Qin Haodong is the grandson of our Chu family. No one is allowed to question him. If anyone dares to provoke him again, he will be expelled from the Chu family." After this small disturbance, everyone could see Chu Shanha's attitude, so no one dared to show disrespect to Qin Haodong anymore. However, this was only on the surface. Most of the Chu family were still extremely opposed to the return of Chu Xianyue and her son, especially those who were ambitious for the position of the family master. They always felt that Qin Haodong was their biggest threat. Not long after, the motorcade that welcomed Qin Haodong came back. Under everyone's gaze, Chu Shanha opened the door and took Chu Xianyue out. "Xianyue, welcome back to the Chu family." Although she knew that the father in front of her was pretending for his son, Chu Xianyue was still moved when she saw the place where she had lived since she was a child. Her eyes became wet. Chu Xuanli said, "Well, this is not the place to talk. Let's go in quickly." During the grand welcome ceremony, Qin Haodong followed Chu Xianyue, and they walked to the Chu family's manor together. Chapter 717. In the spacious hall of the Chu family, Jin Xiuying sat there with a gloomy face. She did not look happy at all. Chu Xianyue walked into the hall, and her expression changed several times when she saw Jin Xiuying. Although this person was her biological mother, she had brought her far more pain than happiness over the years. After hesitating for a while, she finally walked over and said, "Mom, I'm back." Different from the ordinary mother-daughter relationship, the old lady did not show any joy after seeing her daughter, who she had not seen for more than 20 years. On the contrary, a strong look of disgust flashed across her face. In the face of Chu Xuanyue's greeting, she just snorted, then turned her head and kept fiddling with the prayer beads in her hand. Qin Haodong had heard his mother mention all kinds of ruthlessness many times before. Today, he finally saw it with his own eyes. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Chu Xianyue originally wanted Qin Haodong to greet the old lady with his daughter-in-law, but seeing her attitude, she immediately dispelled this idea. Since the old lady had given them the cold shoulder, there was no need to rush to greet her. Seeing that the atmosphere had fallen into an awkward situation, Chu Xuanli hurriedly said, "Since my little sister is back, please sit down." Fortunately, because of Chu Shanha's firm attitude, the other members of the Chu family were still warm to Chu Xianyue, at least on the surface. After sitting down, some cousins immediately surrounded them and kept talking. Chu Xianyue and her daughters-in-law mingled with the women of the Chu family. They greeted them one after another and chatted about daily life. It was quite lively, but Qin Haodong's side was deserted. Only Chu Mingli was sitting here with him. The younger generation of the Chu family, led by Chu Mingsong, were still very resistant to Qin Haodong's return. Seeing this scene, they secretly sneered in their hearts. "I can't afford to offend you, but I'll ignore you. Let's see if you are embarrassed or not." Qin Haodong did not care about it anymore. He leisurely drank tea and ate dessert and melon seeds. In his opinion, it was best that these people did not come, which saved a lot of trouble. As time went by, more and more guests came to the Chu family to congratulate them. Chu Mingli also got up and followed Chu Xuanli to entertain the guests. Only Qin Haodong was left at the huge dining table. A sneer flashed across Chu Mingsong's face. "Aren't you awesome? Aren't you good at martial arts? Even if I don't use violence, I can still toy you to death." At this moment, the MC at the door shouted, "The Han family's patriarch Han Wuji has arrived." Everyone present was slightly taken aback when they heard this loud and clear shout. In the past, when the heads of the 7 great clans celebrated their birthday, the other clans would only send a second-generation disciple to congratulate them. It was very rare for the heads of the clans to come personally. They did not expect that Han Wuji would come personally today. After being slightly stunned, Chu Xianming immediately went forward and brought Han Wuji into the hall. Surrounded by many people, Han Wuji walked into the hall and said to Chu Shanha, who was sitting at the head of the table, "Patriarch Chu, I wish you a long life." The other party was also the head of a family, so Chu Shanha did not dare to be arrogant at all. He stood up and said, "Patriarch Han, I'm just celebrating my birthday. It's really an honor for you to come in person." Han Wuji only gave a simple greeting and then looked around the crowd. Chu Xianming quickly stepped forward and said, "Master Han, please take a seat in the VIP seat." With Han Wuji's identity, he was definitely one of the guests with the highest status. Logically speaking, he should sit in the VIP seat. However, he did not pay any attention to Chu Xianming next to him. Under the gaze of many people, he strode to the ordinary seats next to him. Seeing Qin Haodong sitting here alone, he immediately understood the meaning behind it. He could not help but feel happy. Although Qin Haodong had come to the Chu family, the relationship between them was not harmonious. This was definitely good news for the other aristocratic families. If the Chu family had the strong support of the Tang sect, they would not have any chance. The reason why he came to Chu Shanha's birthday today was to get closer to Qin Haodong. It seemed that this strategy was the right one. "Mr. Qin, do I have the honor to sit with you?" Qin Haodong looked up at Han Wuji. After all, he was Han Jiyu's grandfather, and this old man had always been tactful. He nodded, pointed to the seat next to him and said, "Sit down." Seeing that Qin Haodong agreed, Han Wuji sat next to him with a happy face. Chu Shanha sat in the main seat and could not help but feel annoyed when he saw all this. The descendants of the Chu family were really idiots. He had tried his best to invite Qin Haodong, but they could not see the importance of this overlord of the capital. If the juniors of the Chu family gathered around Qin Haodong at this time, Han Wuji would not be able to drive them away. But now others had benefited from it. At this moment Qi Guofan, the master of the Qi family, and Zhao Tsangqiong, the master of the Zhao family, arrived one after another. After a simple greeting, the 2 old men also ran to Qin Haodong and sat down next to him. It didn't take long for the masters of the 7 great families of the capital to gather together, but the other 6 gathered around Qin Haodong and talked to him like stars surrounding the moon. Qin Haodong just responded indifferently. At this time, even if the Chu family was stupid, they could see that the purpose of the 6 families was not to celebrate the birthday, but to please Qin Haodong. Chu Shanha's face was livid. He tried his best to let Chu Xianyue and her son return in order to prove his relationship with the Tang sect to the other aristocratic families. As a result, these old foxes could see that the relationship between the Chu family and the Tang sect was not so harmonious. It was simply a waste of all their previous efforts. But there was no other way. After all, it was a birthday banquet, and there were many guests. He could only endure it and wait for the end of the birthday banquet to teach these ignorant juniors a lesson. The complacency on Chu Mingsong's face had disappeared. Originally, he wanted to see Qin Haodong embarrassed and humiliated, but now, the masters of the 6 great families surrounded him like stars surrounding the moon. It was not a humiliation, but a kind of show-off. With the arrival of the guests, it was almost time. Next, It was time for the juniors to present birthday gifts to the old master. The MC shouted, "Next, let's invite the filial sons and grandsons of the Chu family to present gifts." According to the order of presenting gifts, the eldest son should go first. Chu Xuanli was also prepared. He held a big red gift box in his hand and said, "Father, today is your birthday. I wish you happiness and longevity." The family members standing next to him immediately stepped forward and took the gift box in their hands. At this moment, Chu Xianming, who was standing next to him, said, "Brother, should we show our gift to father in public and let the guests see our filial piety?" Chu Xuanli hesitated for a moment and said, "Well, please excuse us." After that, he reached out and opened the gift box. There was a jade Buddha statue inside. The jade Buddha statue was about 20 centimeters high and was made of high-quality mutton fat jade. It looked crystal clear, and it was obviously a good thing. After seeing the jade Buddha statue, the surrounding guests immediately began to talk about it. It's still the Chu family after all. Their son's gift is a jade Buddha statue. It's really extraordinary. In my opinion, this jade Buddha statue is worth at least millions of yuan. How is it possible? Such a big mutton fat jade Buddha statue is worth at least 10 million yuan. Chu Shanha also nodded with satisfaction. Obviously, he was very satisfied with his son's gift. After the display, the family members put away the jade Buddha statue. It was Chu Xuanming's turn to present his gift. Everyone looked at him with interest and did not know what gift he had prepared for the old master. "Bring it up." Chu Xuanli waved his hand behind him, and Chu Mingsong immediately came up with a huge gift box with 2 family members. It looked quite heavy. Under everyone's puzzled eyes, Chu Xianming opened the gift box and saw that there was also a jade Buddha statue inside. However, this jade Buddha statue was about 50 centimeters high. It was much better than Chu Xuanli's in terms of material and size. The guests burst into an uproar. "Oh my God, such a big jade Buddha statue. How much does it cost?" Second young master is really generous. Not to mention the craftsmanship of the jade Buddha statue. Such a big piece of jade is worth more than 100 million yuan. This jade Buddha statue is really beautiful. It's definitely a rare thing. Hearing everyone's praise, Chu Xianming said proudly, "Father, I knew that you were going to celebrate your 80th birthday, so I asked people to look for this piece of good jade for 3 years. I also invited famous craftsmen to carve this jade Buddha statue for you as a birthday gift. It means that our Chu family will be blessed with Buddha's light in the future, and that you will be healthy and live a long life. It's rare for you to be so considerate." A bright smile bloomed on Chu Shanha's face. Obviously, he was extremely satisfied with this reason. Chu Xuanli's face instantly darkened. He was just generous, but he was not stupid. Chu Xianming chose the same gift as him and took the initiative to show it to the public. It was obvious that he wanted to trample on him. Chu Xianming turned his head and said proudly, "Brother, I'm really sorry. I didn't discuss it with you before. Look, our gifts are the same." In recent days, with the improvement of Chu Xuanli's cultivation, his status in the family was getting higher and higher. It was obvious that he was inferior to him. Today's gift was carefully planned by him. He had already heard that Chu Xuanli had prepared a jade Buddha statue, so he specially asked someone to make a bigger one with better material. His purpose was to surpass Chu Xuanli in front of everyone. Chu Xianyue, who was standing next to him, secretly shook her head. After so many years, her second brother still liked to play tricks. He even did not let go of his own elder brother. He had just trampled on his elder brother, so she was afraid that she would be the next one. Thinking of this, she turned to look at Qin Haodong next to her and said, "Son, have you prepared our gifts?" Qin Haodong smiled slightly and said, "Don't worry. I'll handle everything. I won't let you lose face." As expected, as soon as they finished speaking, Chu Xianming turned around and looked at Chu Xianyue with a sinister smile. He said, "Little sister, it's time for you to show your filial piety." Seeing that Chu Xianyue and Qin Haodong's hands were empty, he pretended to be surprised and said, "Little sister, today is father's 80th birthday. Don't tell me you didn't even prepare a gift." Chu Xianyue looked embarrassed and turned to look at Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong gave his mother a comforting look, then took 2 steps forward and said to Chu Xianming, "Do you mean that if I don't prepare a gift for the old master, it means that I'm not filial? Does the old master value money so much that he distinguishes the filial piety of his children according to the size of the gift?" Chu Xianming wanted to improve his status in the family through the jade Buddha statue he had carefully prepared, but now he was blushed by Qin Haodong's words. If he said that Qin Haodong was right, then his gift would be prepared in vain. If he denied Qin Haodong's statement, it would be tantamount to saying that his father was a greedy person. At this time Jin Xiuying, who was sitting next to Chu Shanha, snorted and said, "You're so eloquent. Of course, our Chu family does not distinguish filial piety by gifts, but it's basic etiquette to send a birthday gift on the birthday of the elder. If you haven't prepared a gift, don't stand here and argue irrationally." Chapter 718. Over the years, she valued sons more than daughters, but between her 2 sons, she loved her youngest son the most. Seeing that Chu Xianming was frightened, she immediately stood up for him. Chu Xianming also came to his senses and said with a sneer, "Although gifts do not fully represent filial piety, we still have to show basic etiquette. This is our duty as juniors. Don't you think so, little sister?" Chu Xianyue nodded awkwardly and turned to look at Qin Haodong. She did not know what her son was up to. Since he had prepared a gift, why didn't he take it out? The others also looked over with curiosity, surprise, sarcasm, and ridicule in their eyes. Could it be that the mother and son really didn't bring anything when they returned to the Chu family? Of course, Chu Shanha did not dare to expect Qin Haodong to give him any valuable gift. When he was about to say something, he heard Qin Haodong say, "Of course I have a gift. I'll show you now." After that, he turned to Chu Xuanli, Chu Mingli and Chu Ming. Hui and the other 2 said, "First uncle, please come over with cousin and cousin." Now the people present were even more curious. Why did he ask Chu Xuanli to take the gift? Some people also saw the mystery from the way he addressed Chu Xuanli. Since Qin Haodong stepped into the Chu family, he only called Chu Xuanli uncle, which meant that he only recognized him as a relative. Chu Xuanli was also a little confused, but he still followed Qin Haodong's request and took Chu Mingli and Chu Ming with him. They walked to the center of the hall. Qin Haodong said to Chu Shanha, "Master of the Chu family, this is my gift for your 80th birthday." These words caused an uproar. What does this kid mean? Could it be that he's crazy? Using the grandpa's grandson as a congratulatory gift, only this person can do it. It's really too funny. It's fine if you can't take out a gift, but you're doing such a strange thing. Isn't this a disgrace? Chu Xianming sneered and said, "Haodong, what do you mean? Using our Chu family as a congratulatory gift. Are you saying that you don't treat our Chu family as human beings?" His words were extremely sharp and immediately pushed Qin Haodong to the teeth of the storm. Qin Haodong ignored him and said to Chu Mingli and Hui said, Cousin, show me your cultivation." The Chu siblings nodded their heads and immediately operated their true qi. A huge imposing aura burst out from their bodies, forcing the surrounding guests to step back. A 7th-level Supreme Power Master. The expressions of Chu Shanha and the other 6 patriarchs changed drastically when they saw the scene before them. Although the cultivation of a 7th-level Supreme Power Master was high, it was not the top among the big families. However, he was only a young man in his 20s. He was only 18 years old, and it was extremely rare to have this kind of cultivation. Such a young man would definitely become a mainstay of the aristocratic families in the future when he grew up. Especially Chu Shanha. He knew the cultivation of his grandson and granddaughter. Just a few days ago, they were only at the 2nd level of the Supreme Power Realm, and the 3rd level of the Supreme Power Realm. He didn't expect that they would become 7th-level Supreme Power Masters in just a few days. How could he not be shocked? Chu Xuanming's face instantly turned cold. After working hard for so many years, coupled with the spirit culturing pill he bought a few days ago, he had just entered the 7th level of the Supreme Power Realm. But the 2 juniors in front of him had only stayed in the Tang sect for a few days, and they were also 7th-level Supreme Power Masters. How could he have any advantage? Qin Haodong looked at Chu Shanha and smiled slightly. Patriarch Chu, are you satisfied with this gift? Yes. Yes. Chu Shanha nodded repeatedly, and was so happy that he couldn't close his mouth. For so many years, the Chu family's lack of young and old had been his biggest worry. Now that his granddaughter and grandson had grown up, the predicament was immediately alleviated. Don't worry, there's more. Qin Haodong said to Chu Xuanli. Uncle, it's your turn. At this moment, Chu Xuanli already understood Qin Haodong's intention. No wonder he was in a hurry to help them improve their cultivation yesterday. It turned out that he had already made arrangements. He no longer suppressed his cultivation. Under the operation of his true qi, a huge imposing aura belonging to a 9th-level Supreme Power Master burst out and instantly swept the whole place. Oh my God, he's actually a 9th-level Supreme Power Master. The patriarchs of the 7 great clans all stood up. Their expressions changed drastically. Chu Mingli and Chu Mingli and Chu Ming were just potential stocks and had not yet grown up. But Chu Xuanli's 9th-level Supreme Power Master was completely different. This represented the strength of an aristocratic family. Chu Shanchuan and Chu Shanhai, who had been sitting behind Chu Shanha, stood up excitedly. He was a 9th-level Supreme Power Master who belonged to the Chu family. From now on, except for the Tang sect, among the 7 great families, only they had 3 9th-level Supreme Power Masters. This was definitely a reflection of their strength. Chu Xuanli withdrew his imposing aura, and then led Chu Mingli and Chu Ming to the side. Satoshi retreated to the side, leaving the guests who were still dumbfounded. Qin Haodong looked at Chu Shanha and said, Patriarch Chu, what do you think of my gift? Is it comparable to the Jade Buddha statue just now? Only then did Chu Shanha recover from the shock. He beamed with joy and said, Great, it's really great. This is the best gift I've received today. Even 1,000 Jade Buddha statues, or 10,000 Jade Buddha statues can't compare to it. Chu Xuanming's face was pale, and then there was a deep resentment in his eyes. Qin Haodong's move was really ruthless. Not only did he trample on the birthday gift he had carefully prepared, but he also helped Chu Xuanli improve the status of the family. He was a 9th-level Supreme Power Master, who was just in his 40s. Moreover, he had the help of 2 7th-level Supreme Power Masters. With this kind of strength, it was impossible for him not to inherit the position of the family master. After the shock, everyone looked at Qin Haodong. Everyone knew that all of this was caused by the young man in front of them. In just a few days, he had made the status of Chu Xuanli and his son in the Chu family change dramatically. Seeing that her favorite youngest son was defeated, Jin Xiuying's lips moved, and she wanted to say a few words to help her son. But she could not find a suitable topic. She could only stare at Qin Haodong with resentment. If it weren't for him, how could her son have fallen into such a situation? Qin Haodong did not pay attention to this. After presenting the gift, he pulled his mother back to her seat. On the side of the Chu family, the other collateral nephews continued to present gifts. However, compared with just now, there had been a subtle change in the situation. After seeing Qin Haodong's magical ability, the people of the Chu family, whether they were direct or collateral relatives, all wanted to curry favor with Qin Haodong. In their opinion, as long as they could send their children to the Tang sect, it would be equivalent to reaching the sky in a single bound. Their cultivation would be improved, and their status in the family would naturally rise. But it was too late. Sitting next to Qin Haodong were the heads of the other 6 families. Even if these people wanted to curry favor with him, they could not find a suitable opportunity. In endless regret, these people stared at Chu Mingsong fiercely. If it weren't for him secretly playing tricks, they would have gone to Qin Haodong to build a good relationship with him. Maybe they would have agreed to let their nephews enter the Tang sect. In desperation, these people turned to Chu Xianyue and surrounded her tightly, trying their best to curry favor with her. On the other side, Tang Tang was playing with some children of the Chu family. Qin Haodong never cared about children's affairs. As long as Tang Tang was happy, she could play with anyone. Time passed little by little. The gift-giving was about to end, and the birthday party was about to begin. But at this moment, there was a crash next to them. The sound was very loud and crisp. Everyone looked in the direction of the sound, and saw that in front of a group of children, the jade Buddha statue that Chu Xianming had just presented had fallen to the ground and broken into pieces. Chu Xianming had already prepared today's gift. Before this, he had told a family member to put his gift in the most conspicuous position, so that the guests would pay attention to him at all times. The family member also followed his arrangement, and put the jade Buddha statue on top of the other gifts. As the saying goes, the higher you put it, the harder it will fall. At this time, the valuable jade Buddha statue had become a pile of pieces, and had no value to speak of. Jin Xiaoying was already in a bad mood, and she was full of anger. At this time, when she saw the jade Buddha statue was broken, she immediately roared, "What's going on? Who did it?" Seeing the old lady fly into a rage, more than a dozen children standing there dispersed. In the end, only Tang Tang and Chu Yuliang, whom she met at the airport, were left. As the saying goes, love the house and its crow. Because of her preference for Chu Xianming, Jin Xiaoying also doted on her great-grandson very much. Her tone softened a little and she said, "Yuliang, tell me who broke this jade Buddha statue." Chu Yuliang looked embarrassed. I. After a while, he suddenly raised his hand and pointed to Tang Tang next to him. "It's her. She broke the jade Buddha statue." After all, the little fellow was just a 4-year-old child. She was stunned when she saw this kind of thing. After hearing Chu Yuliang's words, she quickly waved her hand and said, "It's not me. It's not me." But Jin Xiaoying did not care about this. She immediately shouted to the family next to her, "No matter whose child it is, beat her hard for breaking the jade Buddha statue of the master." Because of the chaos at the scene, no one knew who had brought this lovely little girl. But when they heard that Jin Xiaoying wanted to beat such a little child, everyone looked at each other and secretly cursed that this old woman was really vicious. However, Jin Xiaoying had accumulated a lot of power in the Chu family. These juniors and relatives of the Chu family did not dare to say anything. After all, it had nothing to do with them. They just needed to watch. Although the two family members were very helpless, they did not dare to disobey Jin Xiaoying's orders. They could only reach out to grab Tang Tang. Facing two tall and strong adults, the little fellow was a little scared. She stood there in a daze, and did not know what to do for a moment. At this moment, a loud shout full of anger was heard. "Whoever dares to touch my daughter, I will kill him." Then a huge momentum burst out in an instant, directly sending the two family members flying and knocking over countless gifts again. Under everyone's surprised eyes, Qin Haodong stepped over and reached out to hold the little fellow in his arms. Seeing the broken gifts, Jin Xiaoying was even more furious. Her body trembled all over. She raised her hand and pointed at Qin Haodong, shouting, "You're rebelling! You're rebelling!" At this time, the frightened little fellow reached out and hugged Qin Haodong's neck. She whispered in his ear, "Papa, it wasn't Tang Tang who broke it. It was that little brother riding a scooter. He broke the jade Buddha statue." Qin Haodong turned his head to look at Chu Yuliang. It was true that dragons gave birth to dragons and phoenixes gave birth to phoenixes. Chu Xuanming's grandson had been so scheming since he was a child. He had caused trouble and blamed it on his daughter. Chu Yuliang was shocked when he saw the look in Qin Haodong's eyes. He hurriedly ran to Jin Xiaoying's side, hugged her thigh and shouted, "Great-grandmother, it was not me. It was Tang Tang who broke it." Jin Xiaoying believed her great-grandson's words. She had been holding a grudge against Qin Haodong for a long time. At this time, it exploded in an instant, and she even lost her mind. A bastard is a bastard. Her daughter is still a bastard. She has no manners at all. How dare she break the jade Buddha statue of the old master? Come on, beat them together. She had lost her mind, but others did not. Qin Haodong was not someone they could afford to provoke. Although she shouted happily, no one dared to move. Chapter 719. What Qin Haodong hated most was being called a bastard. What he cared about the most was the daughter in his arms. Now the vicious old lady in front of him had called his daughter and himself a bastard, which had completely pierced his bottom line. The murderous aura on his body suddenly condensed and spread out, making it hard for everyone in the hall to breathe. Chu Xianyue rushed over and stood in front of Qin Haodong. Haodong, don't be impulsive. No matter what, this was her biological mother. She could not watch her die in the hands of her son. Jin Xiuying was frightened by the soaring murderous aura at first, but when she saw Chu Xianyue rushing over, she immediately shouted more fearlessly, "Bastard, you're a bastard. You don't know how to respect the elders and don't know the family rules." Before she could finish speaking, Qin Haodong flicked his fingers, and a few gusts of wind shot out. Jin Xiuying stood there like a wooden sculpture, and could no longer make a sound. Chu Xianyue was shocked and quickly cried out, "Haodong, what did you do to her?" "Don't worry, I just hit her acupoints to make her mute." Qin Haodong had just sealed several acupoints of Jin Xiuying. If he let the vicious old lady continue, he really could not control the killing intent in his heart, and kill her with the sword. At this time, Chu Xianming came over. He did not dare to face Qin Haodong, so he said to Chu Xianyue with a gloomy face, "Little sister, your granddaughter broke my jade Buddha statue. Can't I say a few words?" Chu Xianyue immediately said, "Is this a matter of saying a few words? Tang Tang is still so young, and she actually wanted to hurt her. Is it wrong for Haodong to stop her?" Chu Xianming said with a cold face, "Anyway, this is the jade Buddha statue that I carefully collected. It's a birthday gift for the old master. It was broken just like that. Shouldn't there be an explanation?" Chu Xianyue said, "Isn't it just a jade Buddha statue? We'll pay for it." Chu Xianming sneered and said, "Pay for it? This is not about money at all. Do you know how much manpower and financial resources I spent to collect such a big piece of jade? Now it has been broken. Can you find me such a big piece of jade?" This. Chu Xianyue was speechless for a moment. She was not short of money, but it was really not easy to find such a big piece of jade. Qin Haodong said, "Do you think this jade Buddha is great?" Chu Xianming said, "Of course. I spent 300 million yuan on this raw stone alone. With the craftsmanship of a skilled craftsman, it will cost at least 500 million yuan. And this is only a preliminary estimate. No matter how much money you have, you can't buy such a good thing." Qin Haodong smiled disdainfully. He turned to the outside of the hall and waved his hand, saying, "Bring it up." The surrounding people were extremely surprised, not knowing what he was going to carry up. Such a young child is so cute, but she still wants to hurt him. This kind of patriarchal thinking is really disgusting. Hearing the discussion around them, the masters of the other 6 great families all smiled happily. Just now, Qin Haodong had helped the Chu family create a 9th-level Supreme Power Master, and they were still very nervous. They were afraid that with the support of the Tang sect, the Chu family would be above the other great families. Now it seemed that there was no need to worry about anything. The Chu family was stupid enough to drive Chu Xianyue and her son out. Chu Shanhe also realized the seriousness of the problem and quickly said, "Haodong, listen to what you said. In fact, this is all a misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding? How can there be a misunderstanding?" Qin Haodong said, "This jade Buddha was broken. The old lady did not ask about the truth at all. You believed whatever the Chu family said. My daughter wanted to defend herself, but you did not give her a chance at all. Is this a misunderstanding?" Chu Xianming said, "In fact, it was your daughter who broke this jade Buddha. What else is there to defend?" Qin Haodong glared at him coldly, and then waved his hand to call the family member, who was guarding the gifts over. He directly used the mind-manipulating skill and asked, "Tell everyone, how did this jade Buddha break?" The family member said, "It was young Master Yuliang. He has been playing with his scooter here. We tried to stop him several times, but we failed. In the end, he broke the jade Buddha. This little girl was wronged." Qin Haodong looked at Chu Yuliang, who was peeping from the side. "Tell me the truth. Who broke the jade Buddha?" Chu Yuliang said, "I broke it, but I was afraid of being punished. Grandpa and Dad hate the little girl's father very much, so I said that she did it." He glanced at Jin Xiuying, whose acupoints had been sealed, and then turned to look at Chu Shanha. Did you hear that? Is this the misunderstanding you mentioned? Chu Shanha was speechless. At this time, he hated his disappointing son very much. He was thinking about how to save the situation in front of him when he heard Chu Xianming shouting hysterically. Qin Haodong, what are you so arrogant about? Don't think that you can become an aristocratic family just because you have some masters. Let me tell you, the strength of the aristocratic families is beyond your imagination. Today, I will let you stay in prison. As soon as he said this, the family masters of the other 6 aristocratic families almost laughed out loud. They were very happy to see the Chu family and the Tang sect officially fall out. At this time, 4 or 5 uniformed policemen came in from outside. After entering the door, they asked, "Who is Qin Haodong?" "I am." Qin Haodong answered, and then looked at Chu Xianming with a sneer. "It seems that you have been planning to deal with me for a long time." Chu Xianming said proudly, "Today I will teach you a lesson. I will let you know that you can laugh in the end with your brains." Qin Haodong smiled slightly and said, "Okay, then I will learn from you." At this time, the policeman walked up to Qin Haodong. The middle-aged police officer in the lead said, "I am Gao Feng, the deputy captain of the crime squad in the eastern district of the capital. Someone reported that you killed someone on purpose. Please cooperate with us for the investigation." After hearing Gao Feng's words, the others suddenly fell silent. They could not accept the accusation of killing someone on purpose. Once it was confirmed, they were afraid that they would really have to stay in prison for the rest of their lives. The family masters of the other 6 aristocratic families had a sarcastic smile on their faces. It was a despicable way to use the power of the government in the battle between the aristocratic families. They really did not know if Chu Xianming had lost his mind. How could he call such a stupid way of doing things with brains? Qin Haodong did not look flustered at all. He said calmly, "Officer, who did I kill? Who is the witness?" Before Gao Feng could speak, Chu Xianming shouted, "At the engagement party of the Qi family, you killed Master Yuan Tianren with your own hands." Qin Haodong looked at him coldly and said, "I killed him. Did you see it?" Hearing this, Gao Feng also turned to look at Chu Xianming. "Although I didn't see it, many people present saw it." Chu Xianming pointed to the family masters of the 6 aristocratic families next to Qin Haodong and said, "You all saw it with your own eyes." Gao Feng looked at Han Wuji, who was the closest to him, and asked, "Sir, did you see it with your own eyes at that time?" "Yuan Tianren is indeed dead. I saw it with my own eyes." Just when everyone's hearts were in their throats, and they thought that Han Wuji was going to testify against Qin Haodong, he smiled and said, "But he died of a heart attack. It has nothing to do with Mr. Qin." After that, he looked at Chu Xianming sarcastically and thought to himself, "I can't wait to curry favor with the Tang sect. How could I be as stupid as you?" Then the other 5 old men also stood up to testify that Yuan Tianren had died of natural causes and had nothing to do with Qin Haodong. You are lying. You are covering up for Qin Haodong." Although Chu Xianming was scheming, he still misjudged the performance of the family masters of the 6 aristocratic families. He had thought that as long as he stood up, the 6 aristocratic families would definitely join him to overthrow Qin Haodong. But he had misjudged the situation. He did not know that after the incident with Yan Feifei last time, if they were not 100% confident, the 6 aristocratic families would definitely not have the courage to fight against Qin Haodong head-on. Chu Xianming suddenly had an idea. He turned to look at his father, Chu Shanha, and shouted to Gao Feng, "My father witnessed Qin Haodong kill Yuan Tianren with his own eyes. He told me the news. He can also stand up to testify." After he finished speaking, everyone's eyes were focused on Chu Shanha. Chu Shanha's face was livid. He wanted to strangle his disappointing son. Wasn't he trying to kill his father? Chapter 720. Because it was confirmed that Qin Haodong had killed someone, Chu Xianming did not use any connections. Gao Feng handled the case impartially, He looked at Chu Shanha and said, "Old Master Chu, is that so? Did you see Qin Haodong kill someone intentionally?" "No, I also saw Yuan Tianren die of a heart attack with my own eyes. It has nothing to do with Mr. Qin." Chu Shanha gave a very positive answer and then said, "Officer, my son is a little drunk. Don't listen to his nonsense. You'd better go back." Like the masters of the other 6 great families, he did not think that Chu Xianming could defeat Qin Haodong, so he would not stand up to testify. Gao Feng knew that this was the Chu family in the capital, so he did not dare to hold Chu Xianming responsible for making a false report. He turned around and said politely to him, "Mr. Chu, it seems that this is a misunderstanding. If you don't have any evidence, I'll go back." Chu Xianming said anxiously, "Officer Gao, you can't go. I'm telling the truth. Qin Haodong did kill Yuan Tianren, but these people are afraid of him, so no one dares to stand up to testify." Gao Feng glanced at Qin Haodong, and then at the masters of the big family sitting next to him. It was not his first day as a policeman in the capital. Although he was not a martial artist, he knew that these old men were the masters of the big families in the capital. Even their director did not dare to offend them. How could they be threatened by this very ordinary young man? He did not smell any alcohol on Chu Xianming. If it were not for the power of the Chu family, he really wanted to catch this guy and take him back to have a blood test to see if he had taken drugs and why he was talking nonsense with his eyes wide open. Gao Feng said patiently, "Mr. Chu, we the police need evidence to solve a case. Call me when you have concrete evidence." After that, he was about to leave. Chu Xianming grabbed his big arm, pointed to the 2 injured family members next to him and said, "Officer Gao, even if this matter does not count, Qin Haodong has other cases. Just now he injured 2 of us." The 2 family members had just been sent flying by Qin Haodong, and their faces were swollen. There were indeed bruises all over their bodies. Qin Haodong frowned. It seemed that Chu Xianming was determined to fight with him to the end, but he did not want to waste time like this. He said to Gao Feng, "Officer, please go back. Even if I really kill someone, it's not your business." Gao Feng was speechless. Why did the people from this big family talk incoherently? It was okay for Chu Xianming to talk nonsense, but why did this young man not speak seriously? When he was about to say something, Qin Haodong said, suddenly, a certificate appeared in front of him. Gao Feng's heart skipped a beat when he saw the ID. As the deputy captain of the Imperial City's criminal police force, he was different from other police officers. He was very sensitive to such special IDs. He took the certificate from Qin Haodong, checked it carefully and gave it back with both hands. Then he saluted and said respectfully, "Mr. Qin, I'm sorry to bother you. I'll go back now." After that, he waved to the policemen behind him. They left the banquet hall in a hurry and ignored Chu Xianming. The people present were confused. They didn't know what kind of ID it was to make the police so respectful. Qin Haodong turned around and said to Chu Xianming with a sneer, "What else do you want to say? I'm still waiting for you to teach me a lesson." Although they were far away, and no one could see Qin Haodong's ID clearly, Chu Xianming was standing next to him, and he could clearly see the words Xianyuan Pavilion on it. After a slight pause, he laughed again and said, "Qin Haodong, don't think that I can't do anything to you just because you're a member of the Xianyuan Pavilion. Today, I've prepared a few dishes for you. Since the first one doesn't work, look at the second one." Seeing that he was going on and offending Qin Haodong more and more, Chu Shanha said angrily, "Second brother, what are you doing? Go back and put yourself in confinement. Don't make trouble anymore." "Dad, don't worry. I'll definitely bring Qin Haodong down today." Chu Xianming shouted like crazy. "So what if he's a member of the Xianyuan Pavilion? Based on his age, he's at best a pawn. I've invited the leader of the Xianyuan Pavilion. Today, I must make him lose his reputation and die without a burial place." After he finished speaking, the masters of the 7 great families all changed their expressions. How could the major families living in the capital not know about the Xianyuan Pavilion? It was the supreme existence of the special department of Huaxia. There were many masters, and it restricted all the martial artists in Huaxia. The leader of the Xianyuan pavilion had a noble status and did not have much contact with the major families. How could it be possible that Chu Xianming said that he had invited the leader of the Xianyuan pavilion? At this moment, there was a disturbance at the door of the hall. Everyone turned their heads and saw a woman in white walking in. This person was dressed in a long white dress and had long hair. She carried a sword on her back, and her face was as beautiful as a fairy's, but she was extremely dignified. The woman in white walked into the hall step by step. Soon, everyone was surprised to find that her feet were not on the ground, but walking in the air. All the men from the aristocratic families changed their expressions. This was a Saint Realm expert. When he saw the woman in white, Chu Xianming immediately ran up excitedly and said, "Xianyuan Pavilion leader, you're finally here. I'll tell you that this guy named Qin Haodong is the one who colluded with the Devil Gate." After the shock, Chu Xianming got up from the ground and shouted with a fierce look, "Qin Haodong, don't think that you will win. Let me tell you." Qin Haodong sneered and said, "Are you going to tell me that the tea is poisoned and ask me to kneel down and beg for mercy?" Chu Xuanming's mouth, which had just been closed, suddenly opened again and he asked in horror, You already know?" Qin Haodong drank up the tea in front of him, then looked at him and said, "I have to say that you are very scheming, but there is a famous saying in Huaxia that if you know yourself and your enemy, you will always win. I also have a nickname, Medical Sage. Your poison is not even enough to fill the gaps between my teeth." Chapter 721. Hearing that there was poison in the tea, there was a commotion among the people around, especially the masters of the other 6 families. Their faces immediately darkened. They did not know if there was also poison in their tea. "Don't be nervous, everyone. He doesn't have the guts to poison everyone." Qin Haodong picked up his teacup and twisted it hard with both hands. The base of the delicate porcelain teacup was twisted off. He raised the base in his hand and said, "This cup is called the Immortal Cup, which is specially used to poison people. There are a few small holes where the base is connected to the top, but they are all smeared with special wax oil, so the naked eye can't see them at all. When poisoning, you only need to put the poison in the base, and then give it to the person. At the beginning, because the poison did not overflow, the other party would not be able to find it no matter how vigilant they were. But as time went by, the other party's vigilance gradually decreased. At this time, the wax oil melted in the heat, and the poison continued to overflow, turning the tea in the cup into a cup of deadly poisonous tea. So don't worry, this poison is only in my cup. You are all safe." Everyone was stunned. There was actually such a poisonous artifact. The intention was really ingenious. Some people picked up the teacups in their hands and tried, but no matter how hard they tried, they could not turn the base off. After confirming that they were not poisoned, these people were relieved. In fact, they were completely worried. If they were poisoned, their bodies would have reacted long ago. After all, they did not have Qin Haodong's physique that was immune to all poisons. On the other side, Chu Shanha had completely sunk to the bottom, and there was no longer any joy on his face. If the previous contradiction could be resolved, now he was completely standing on the opposite side of the Tang sect. From another perspective, if someone poisoned him, he would never forgive the culprit. He didn't expect that his birthday banquet would be ruined by this stupid mother and son. After Qin Haodong introduced the Immortal Cup, he said to Chu Xianming, "What do you think? Mr. Chu, am I right?" Seeing that Qin Haodong was not poisoned, Chu Xuanming's last trump card had been used. He was no longer as calm as before and his face was pale. "Haodong, I was wrong. I was really wrong this time. For the sake of my status as your uncle, please forgive me this time." Chu Xianming no longer cared about his identity and face. He knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Qin Haodong to beg for mercy. Then he begged Chu Xianyue next to him, "Little sister, please say something for me. I'm your brother." Chu Xianyue directly turned her face to the side. At this time, her expression was also very ugly. If it was other things, she could help to say a few good words, but poisoning her own son was simply unforgivable. Seeing that his sister ignored him, he turned around and begged Qin Haodong. Of course, Qin Haodong would not be fooled by his pity. This kind of person was a poisonous snake. If you let him go today, he would bite you tomorrow. Tell me, what poison did you give me? What's the purpose? As he spoke, he immediately used the soul-devouring technique. This poison is called Thousand Opportunity Poison. After it enters the human body, it will change its location every 2 hours. There is no antidote at all. If you can't get the antidote within 24 hours, all the places that the Thousand Opportunity Poison has passed through will start to fester, and eventually, you will die slowly due to your body rotting. Too vicious. There's actually such a vicious poison. How can the poison be detoxified if it changes its location every 2 hours? He poisoned his own nephew. Is he still a human? It's really hateful. Under the control of the soul-devouring technique, Chu Xianming did not care about the condemnation of others at all. He continued, even if I get the antidote, I can't fundamentally cure the Thousand Opportunity Poison. It can only temporarily relieve the poison's effect. Hearing this, the crowd, who had just quieted down, became excited again. If he could control Qin Haodong with the Thousand Opportunity Poison, it would be equivalent to controlling the entire Tang sect. Now the Tang sect dominated the entire capital. Controlling the Tang sect was equivalent to dominating the capital. It could be seen how ambitious Chu Xianming was. At the same time, everyone also understood why Chu Xianming took the risk. It turned out that he had a big plan. Qin Haodong asked again, since you found such a rare poison, why did you still use those despicable means to deal with me? Chu Xianming was like a good child and answered every question. I know that you are very difficult to deal with, so I can't walk on one leg. So I thought of many ways to distract you and let the Thousand Opportunity Poison take effect. At this time, the masters of the 7 great families realized that Chu Xianming was not stupid, but too shrewd. At the same time, a deep fear of Qin Haodong arose in their hearts. Even such a vicious plan could not do anything to him. It could be seen how difficult it was to deal with this person. Qin Haodong continued to ask, ordinary people can't make this Thousand Opportunity Poison at all. Where did you get it? Chu Xianming said, my son Chu Mingsong bought it from a woman named Qian Meihui. That woman is still hiding in his room. Chu Mingsong had been hiding behind the crowd. He had thought that his father would not throw him out. He had never expected that Qin Haodong would have such a magical skill as the soul-devouring technique. Now when he heard that his father had also recognized him, he turned around and was about to run away. However, he was kicked down by Chu Mingli, who was standing next to him. Then he lifted his collar and threw him in front of Qin Haodong. Now Chu Mingli regarded his cousin as a god, but he dared to poison his own god. Even his own cousin could not do it. Qin Haodong waved his hand, and Ma Wenjue and Zhang Tiniu immediately rushed to the residential area of the Chu family's manor with their men. He turned around to look at Chu Mingsong and asked, how did you know Qian Meihui and how did you cooperate with her? After being taught a lesson by you at the airport that day, I felt very aggrieved, so I went to the bar to drink. I met Qian Meihui there. I saw that she was beautiful, so I wanted to get a room with her to vent my anger. I didn't expect that she would take the initiative to tell me that she had a blood feud with you and wanted to deal with you with me. I immediately agreed. After that, she gave me this fairy cup and Thousand Opportunity Poison and taught me how to use it. In order to avoid my suspicion, she returned to the Chu family's villa with me at night and did not leave. She waited for my news there. Qian Meihui had a blood feud with me? Qin Haodong searched his mind from beginning to end, but he could not remember when he had met such a person. At this moment, Zhang Tiniu walked into the hall with a beautiful woman. The moment he saw the woman, Qin Haodong immediately understood that she was not Qian Meihui, but Chiba Mieko from Neon. A few months ago, Chiba Mieko had attacked him at the exchange meeting between Huaxia and Neon. He did not kill her, but only destroyed her cultivation. He did not expect that this woman would be so vindictive. After such a long time, she still came to Huaxia to attack him. After arriving at the hall, Chiba Mieko looked calm and did not show much fear. She glanced at Chu Xianming and Chu Mingsong with disdain and said, "You two are really useless. I'm so disappointed in you." Then she looked at Qin Haodong and said, "You damn Huaxia man. How dare you destroy my years of hard work? During this period of time, I have been studying poison and concocting the 1,000 opportunity poison that has no antidote at all. I thought that I would definitely kill you this time, but I didn't expect that these two stupid guys were so useless that they were discovered by you." Qin Haodong looked at Chiba Mieko coldly and said with a murderous look, "I've already let you go last time, but you still came here to poison me. Do you think that I don't dare to kill you?" Chiba Mieko smiled proudly and said, "You're right. You really don't dare to kill me, because my grandfather is Kyo Chiba, the sage of Neon. My grandfather didn't agree with me to practice martial arts, so it's okay for you to destroy my cultivation. But if you dare to kill me, my grandfather will definitely kill you and all your relatives." Hearing that this Neon woman turned out to be Kyo Chiba's granddaughter, many of the martial artists present were moved. Kyo Chiba had dominated Neon for many years and was known as the #1 martial artist in Neon. Although Kyo Chiba had not fought for many years, he was recognized as a saint-level master. Although the Tang sect now dominated the capital, Kyo Chiba was definitely not someone to be trifled with. No one knew how the young man in front of them would deal with this Neon woman. Everyone's eyes were focused on him. Qin Haodong sneered and said, "Kyo Chiba? Do you think that an old man from Neon can scare us Huaxia people?" A sneer appeared at the corner of Chiba Mieko's mouth. "Am I scaring you? Do you know why I didn't leave, but waited to be caught by you in the Chu family? Because this is also one of my plans. If the 1,000 opportunity poison doesn't kill you, you can catch me. It's best if you can kill me, and then let my grandfather avenge me. Then you will definitely die. This Neon woman is really abnormal. She can even come up with such a method for revenge. I think this woman is bluffing. She doesn't want to die at all. I don't know if Qin Haodong dares to kill this woman. Her grandfather is the sage of Neon." While many people were discussing, Chiba Mieko raised her chin and said provocatively, "What do you think? Do you dare to kill me?" "As you wish." After that, Qin Haodong flicked his finger, and a wind shot out, piercing into Chiba Mieko's left chest. Chiba Mieko had no cultivation at all, so her heart meridians were immediately broken. Her eyes widened and were full of unwillingness. Obviously, she did not want to die, and did not believe that Qin Haodong would really dare to kill her. But everything had become a reality. A few seconds later, her body fell to the ground with a plop, and she was no longer breathing. Seeing that Qin Haodong even dared to kill the granddaughter of the Sage of Sword, Chu Xianming and Chu Mingsong were scared out of their wits. They quickly knelt on the ground and begged bitterly, "Don't kill me. Please don't kill me. We are blood relatives. Haodong, I'm your uncle. I can give you all my property over the years, but please don't kill me." Qin Haodong looked at the two people in front of him coldly and said in a cold voice, "As Huaxia people, when you colluded with the Neon people to poison me, did you ever think that we are blood relatives? When you schemed against me one after another, didn't you think about the consequences of failure?" At this time, everyone present could feel the murderous intent emanating from him, and realized that the two people seemed to be in danger. However, because of Qin Haodong's majesty, no one dared to stand up and speak. Chu Shanhe stood next to him. He saw that his son and grandson's lives were hanging by a thread, but he had no ability to stop them. He turned his head to look at Chu Xianyue, hoping that his daughter could come forward to stop them. However, Chu Xianyue did not even look at him. She had no intention of coming forward. Although Jin Xiuying's acupoints were sealed, she could see all this clearly. Her expression constantly changed. Obviously, she was anxious for her favorite son and grandson. But now she couldn't say a word, and her body couldn't move at all. Chapter 722. Faced with this question, Chu Xianming and his son were speechless. They had been thinking about how much benefits they would get after they succeeded. They had never considered the consequences of failure. Qin Haodong said coldly, "There is no need for people like you to live in this world. But for the sake of the Chu family, I'll leave your bodies intact." Seeing that Qin Haodong wanted to kill them, Chu Xianming and his son knew that they could not do anything. They jumped up from the ground and were about to escape. But as soon as they took 2 steps, 2 gusts of wind shot into their backs. Plop! Plop! Chu Xianming and Chu Mingsong fell beside Chiba Mieko's body, and they were no longer breathing. Seeing that the 2 core disciples of the Chu family had been killed, everyone else was shocked. But under such circumstances, no one dared to make a sound. The huge living room was so quiet that one could hear their breathing. Everyone knew that this matter was not over yet. They were afraid that the Chu family would not be able to escape this time. Sure enough, Qin Haodong slowly came to his senses and said to Chu Shanha, who was standing next to him, "My mother and I came back to celebrate your birthday. But look at what the Chu family has done. They have deliberately planned to deal with us. As the family master, you can't be absolved of the blame." Chu Shanha had no time to care about the pain of losing his son. He quickly said, "My unfilial son did all this behind my back. I didn't know anything about it." "Of course I know. If you were involved, you wouldn't have the chance to stand and talk to me now." Qin Haodong stood up and exuded a powerful aura, suppressing everyone present. He said lightly, "Originally, I could have wiped you out from the capital because of what the Chu family has done to me. But for the sake of my mother, I'll give you a chance. Abdicate and give the position of the family master to my uncle. Then leave the capital. I can let the Chu family go this time." Feeling his powerful aura, all the members of the Chu family were silent. When they heard that Qin Haodong only wanted Chu Shanha to abdicate, they immediately breathed a sigh of relief. Compared with the destruction of the Chu family, this was the best choice. As for the family heads of the other 6 great families, although they looked calm on the surface, their hearts were in turmoil. No one had ever been able to cripple the family head of a great family, except for Qin Haodong. Although he knew that this was the lightest punishment, Chu Shanha still said unwillingly, "Haodong, sooner or later, the position of master will be passed to Xuanli, but now he is still young. If I step down from my position as the patriarch, I'm afraid he won't be able to convince the masses. How about this? After a few years, I will step down from the position of the family master and pass it to Chu Xuanli." Qin Haodong turned to the Chu family and asked, "Are you convinced that my uncle will be the master of the Chu family?" His voice was not loud, but it was filled with endless majesty. "I support Chu Xuanli to be the master of the Chu family." The first to stand up and speak was the first elder Chu Shanchuan. Then second elder Chu Shanhai also shouted, "I also support Chu Xuanli to be the master of the Chu family." These 2 were the most prestigious elders in the Chu family. After they spoke, the rest of the Chu family echoed, "We support Chu Xuanli to be the master of the Chu family. I have no objection. Chu Xuanli is the most suitable person to be the master." These people had already seen clearly that the vicious old woman, Jin Xiaoying, had completely offended Chu Xianyue and her son. In addition, what Chu Xianming had just done. If Chu Xuanli was not the master of the Chu family, they were afraid that the Chu family would really be finished. Moreover, they also knew that Chu Xuanli was the closest to Qin Haodong. Among the people in the Chu family, only he could be recognized by Qin Haodong. Once Chu Xuanli became the master, the Chu family would definitely get the full support of the Tang sect. It would be difficult for them not to be strong in the future. If the Chu family was strong, their interests would naturally be guaranteed. The children of these big families had always developed a way of doing things that put interests first. As long as they could guarantee their own interests, it did not matter who was the master of the family. Moreover, Chu Xuanli was already a level 9 supreme power master. If he was the master of the Chu family, he could immediately strengthen the strength of the Chu family, and no one could find a reason to object. Therefore, under Qin Haodong's interrogation, 100% of the Chu family present stood up to support Chu Xuanli as the master of the family. It could be said that it was what everyone expected. Looking at these people in front of him, Chu Shanha's face was gloomy. He knew that his position as the master of the family had indeed come to an end. He could only say helplessly, "Well, from today on, I, Chu Shanha, will step down from the position of the family master and leave the capital in a few days." At this moment, his heart was full of regret. If he had regarded Qin Haodong as his own grandson from the beginning, if he could move Chu Xianyue with family affection this time, perhaps the current situation would not be the case. But there was no medicine for regret in the world. He could only think about it in his heart. Chu Xuanli had not recovered from the shock. Recently things had changed too fast. Not only had he jumped from an ordinary level 6 Supreme Power Master to a level 9 Supreme Power Master, but now he had also become the master of the Chu family. This made him a little unable to accept it for a while. The matter of the Chu family had been completely resolved. Qin Haodong did not want to stay here anymore. He left the Chu family with a group of people and returned to the Tang sect. After seeing them leave, Chu Shanha sighed and walked to Jin Xiuying. He raised his hand and unsealed her acupoints. "Son, grandson." As soon as she regained her freedom of movement, Jin Xiuying immediately stumbled to the bodies of Chu Xianming and Chu Mingsong. She hugged them and burst into tears. After a while she raised her head again, stared at Chu Shanha with bloodshot eyes and scolded, "Are you still a man? How could you watch that little bastard kill your son and grandson?" Chu Shanha was holding back his anger and had nowhere to vent it. How could he tolerate Jin Xiuying's temper? He immediately shouted angrily, "Enough! If it weren't for you, the Chu family wouldn't have become like this." Jin Xiuying was stunned at first, and then she shouted crazily again, "I don't care. I only know that little bastard killed my son and grandson. I want him to pay with his life. I want to call the police. I want him to die." As soon as she took out her mobile phone, it was smashed by Chu Shanha. "Have you had enough? These two little bastards communicated with the Neon people and wanted to poison the members of the Xianyuan Pavilion. What's the use of calling the police? Do you want to anger Qin Haodong again?" Jin Xiuying cried. "Do you mean that my son and grandson died in vain? So what if they didn't die in vain? Do you want the whole Chu family to be buried with them?" The one who spoke was the first elder, Chu Shanchuan. He said with a gloomy face, "If it weren't for you, bitch, who valued boys more than girls and doted on Chu Xianming, how could he have caused such a big trouble? If you could treat your own daughter better, how could our Chu family be so passive? In the end, you are the culprit." What else did Jin Xiuying want to say? But when she opened her mouth, she suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground on her back. Chu Xuanli rushed over to help her up, only to find that the old lady was no longer breathing. This vicious old woman, who had been domineering all her life, finally died of anger. It could be said that she had brought it upon herself. Looking at the 4 bodies on the ground, Chu Shanha sighed and said to Chu Xuanli, "No matter what, death is the most important thing. After all, they are members of our Chu family. Bury them." Chu Xuanli nodded and asked a few family members to carry the 4 bodies away. Then, he began to prepare for the funeral. Qin Haodong returned to the Tang sect and brought Xianyuan Legay to the reception room. "Sacred Master, is the Qinji poison in your body okay?" At this moment, there was no one around, so Xianyuan Legay immediately called him respectfully. "I'm fine. This poison is nothing to me." Qin Haodong waved his hand and said to her, "You came to me this time not only because of Chu Xianming, right?" Xianyuan Legay said with a happy face, "Of course not. I'm here to tell you the good news. Since using your pills, the overall cultivation of our Zihong Sword House has improved rapidly. I have advanced from the early stage of the Saint Realm to the middle stage of the Saint Realm. In addition, 6 9th-level Supreme Power Masters have broken through to the Saint Realm, and 10 other disciples have also broken through to the 9th level of the Supreme Power Realm. It can be said that the strength of the Zihong Sword House is unprecedentedly powerful. Even if the Devil Gate goes back on its word, we can still destroy them easily." The more she spoke, the more excited she became. Since she found the Sacred Master, the Zihong Sword House was no longer the same as before. The number of masters had increased several times that of the Devil Gate. It could be said that there were many masters and their strength was unprecedented. Hearing this news, Qin Haodong nodded with satisfaction. These pills made of 5,000-year-old medicinal materials were indeed powerful. The stronger the Zihong sword house was, the more confident they would be in fighting against the alien demons in the future. He said, "Now we don't know how powerful the alien demons are, but since they were able to fight against Emperor Huang Xianyuan and Qiyu, they must not be weak. We have to hurry up and improve. Wait here for a while. I'll refine some more pills for you to take away." After that, he left Xianyuan Legay there, and took the little fellow into the alchemy room. Now Tang Tang's phoenix flame had been greatly improved, and was close to the Samadhi true fire. Her cultivation had also been improved to the early stage of the Yuaning realm. With the two superimposed, refining pills was several times faster than before, and the quality was also constantly improving. Near dusk, Qin Haodong and the little fellow walked out of the alchemy room. His storage ring was already filled with all kinds of pills. Xianyuan Legay took the pills, thanked Qin Haodong quietly, and left the Tang sect. Qin Haodong called Ma Wenjua and gave him the newly refined pills. He asked him to distribute them to the people of the Tang sect. Now that the major forces in the capital had been calmed down, what they needed to do was to quietly improve their strength and wait for the alien demons to give them a fatal blow. After seeing Xianyuan Legay off and having dinner, Qin Haodong took Zhao Qinggu into the Tang sect. That night, Han Jiyu and Zhao Qinggu also became 9th-level Supreme Power Masters. However, they and Wei Yanran were just ordinary people before, and did not know much about martial arts. It would take some time for them to improve their strength. After their cultivation was completely stabilized, they would go back to take over the position of the family master, and completely take control of their families. With the current deterrent power of the Tang sect, he believed that the other great families would not dare to stand up against it. The next morning, Qin Haodong had just had breakfast when his cell phone suddenly rang. He picked it up and took a look. It was a call from Hua Mingrui. After pressing the answer button, he heard the other side saying anxiously, "Haodong, where are you now?" Hua Mingrui was a quiet person, and her words and deeds were extremely elegant. Something big must have happened to make her so anxious. Qin Haodong asked, "I'm at home. What's the matter? Then can you come to my tea house for a while? I have something important to talk to you about." "Okay, wait for me for a while. I'll be there now." Now that the two of them were friends, Qin Haodong naturally could not refuse. He hung up the phone, said goodbye to his family, and drove to Hua Mingrui's Jingdong tea house. After entering the door, he saw that Hua Mingrui was not reading books and drinking tea as usual. Instead, she was sitting there with a sad face. He asked, "What's wrong? Is something wrong?" When Hua Mingrui said this, her white and tender cheeks flushed. She had never had a boyfriend in her life, and it was the first time she had asked someone to pretend to be her boyfriend. The most important thing was that she had an endless good impression of Qin Haodong from the bottom of her heart. Thinking of having this handsome man as her boyfriend, her heart kept pounding. Qin Haodong said, "That's fine. Let's go and have a look." Seeing that he agreed, Hua Mingrui was overjoyed. "Haodong, thank you. Don't mention it. It's not a big deal at all." Qin Haodong asked Hua Mingrui to get in his car, and then drove forward according to her instructions. Along the way, Hua Mingrui began to introduce her grandfather's situation. It turned out that her grandfather's name was Mu Baisin, who had once followed Taizu to conquer the world. He was one of the few old generals left today, and had a very high status in Huaxia. Among his uncles, some were in politics and some were in the army, and they all held important positions. Only her youngest uncle Mu Haiqing was in business and had a large business. The Jubao auction house was one of his subordinate businesses. Qin Haodong nodded secretly. No wonder he could open such a large auction house in a place like the capital. It turned out that he had such a deep official background. While they were talking, they had already driven to a nursing home on the outskirts of the capital. The scenery here was beautiful, and the air was fresh. It was indeed a good place for recuperation. This nursing home belonged to the military. From the entrance, there was a guard every 3 steps, and a sentry every 5 steps. The security was extremely tight. Hua Mingrui showed her pass, and then led Qin Haodong into the nursing home. After entering the door, it was still heavily guarded. All kinds of guards in military uniforms and plain clothes were shuttling around. Once they found anything unusual, they would immediately give a thunderous blow. Mu Bison's rank was very high. He did not live with other nursing staff. Instead, he enjoyed a small courtyard alone. The guard at the door knew Hua Mingrui. When he saw her coming, he did not say much and directly let the 2 of them in. Perhaps in order to make it more realistic, Hua Mingrui took Qin Haodong's arm and pressed her towering chest tightly against his arm. They walked into the ward and saw a thin old man lying on the bed. There were all kinds of tubes in his body, and he was breathing oxygen through his nostrils. At this time he was in a coma. At the head of the bed, a middle-aged man in his 40s was standing there. He had a faint aura of a superior, but at this time his face was sad. It was obvious that he was worried about the old man's illness. He was Hua Mingrui's uncle, Mu Haiqing, the head of the Mu's group in the capital. He had hundreds of billions of assets in his hands. Next to him stood a young doctor in his 30s. He was wearing a white coat, and his hair was meticulously combed. There was a faint arrogant look on his face. He was talking to Mu Haiqing. After seeing Hua Mingrui and Qin Haodong enter the door, the young doctor immediately stopped talking. Mu Haiqing also turned around and saw Hua Mingrui. He said, "Mingrui, you're here." Then he saw Qin Haodong next to her and asked in surprise, "Mingrui, who is this young man?" Hua Mingrui said shyly, "Uncle, this is my boyfriend Qin Haodong." Hearing this, Mu Haiqing was slightly stunned. His niece had been arrogant since she was a child. She had never talked to any man. He did not expect that she would bring her boyfriend here today. The young doctor next to him changed his expression greatly. He was Li Shuai, a cardiopulmonary expert in this sanatorium. He was a famous doctor who had returned from abroad. Since he saw Hua Mingrui in the ward a month ago, Li Shuai had been shocked and immediately began to pursue her crazily. However, Hua Mingrui rejected him all the time. No matter whether he sent her flowers, invited her to dinner or watched a movie. Even so, he did not give up. He felt that as long as he persisted, he would be able to win Hua Mingrui's heart sooner or later. But today, she came directly with her boyfriend, which made him feel as if a basin of cold water had been poured over his head. Hearing that it was his niece's boyfriend, Mu Haiqing's attitude immediately became much better. He warmly invited him to sit on the sofa next to him. This was a high-end ward. Not only was it decorated very luxuriously, but it was also equipped with sofas, televisions, and other equipment. Not bad, young man. He's very handsome. Mu Haiqing was very satisfied with Qin Haodong's appearance. He looked very compatible with his niece. Then he asked other parents, "Little Qin, what do you do?" Well, Hua Mingrui had told him before that he must not say that he was a doctor. After hesitating for a moment, he said, "I'm a security guard." In fact, this was not wrong. He was indeed a member of the Daddy Security Company. Security guard? Hearing this answer, Mu Haiqing was stunned. He knew Hua Mingrui's pride very well. How could she have a security guard as her boyfriend? Li Shuai, who was next to him, suddenly looked much more relaxed. Although this guy looked very handsome, he was just a security guard. How could he compare with a top student who graduated from a famous medical university in M country? Hua Mingrui, who was next to him, was afraid that she would reveal something if she said too much. She hurriedly said, "Uncle, Haodong and I are here to visit grandfather." At the mention of his father, Mu Haiqing's expression, which had just relaxed a little, immediately became serious again. "Your grandfather's condition is very bad now. According to Dr. Li's speculation, he can hold on for 3 days at most." Hearing that his specialty was mentioned, Li Shuai would not let go of the opportunity to show off. He hurriedly stepped forward and said, "That's the current situation, but I've already asked my teacher to go to Huaxia from the World Medical Association. He is an expert in cardiology. I believe that he can definitely cure Mr. Mu's disease. And I've already reported Mr. Mu's condition to the hospital. The director said that he had already reported it to Minister Xiao Weiman of the Ministry of Health. Minister Xiao attaches great importance to it. He has already summoned the cardiology experts in the capital. As soon as my teacher arrives, he will immediately carry out an expert consultation with a combination of Chinese and Western medicine. We will definitely find a way to cure Mr. Mu. This guy's saliva was flying everywhere, and he was trying his best to show his role in this consultation. But Hua Mingrui did not care about this at all. What she cared about was whether Qin Haodong could cure her grandfather. Uncle, I'll go and see grandfather. Hua Mingrui did not even look at Li Shuai. She took Qin Haodong and walked to the bed together. Since they had left, there was no need for Li Shuai to continue talking. He could only stop talking awkwardly. Hua Mingrui came to Mu Bison's bed and tentatively looked at the old man. Then she picked up the basin next to her, poured some warm water, and gently wiped the old man's cheeks. Qin Haodong stood next to her. With his medical skills, although he did not feel the pulse, he could clearly see the old man's condition. Seeing that Mu Haiqing did not pay attention to them, Hua Mingrui secretly said in Qin Haodong's ear, "How is it? Is there any hope for my grandfather?" Qin Haodong said, "The source of your grandfather's disease is in the lungs. He should have been injured in the early years. Although he has been treated, the root of the disease has not been completely removed. Later he caught a cold, which caused his condition to become worse and worse. Now not only the veins of the lungs are thicker, but there is also fluid accumulation. This is not the most serious problem. The cause of your grandfather's coma is pulmonary fibrosis, which is also the most troublesome thing in the treatment." Hua Mingrui had heard doctors discuss her grandfather's condition many times. What Qin Haodong said just now was no different from the results measured by those sophisticated instruments. She asked with a face full of hope, "Can you cure this disease?" Qin Haodong said confidently, "Although it's a little troublesome, it's not too difficult. If you let me treat it, your grandfather can wake up and get out of bed in one session, and he can be completely cured in 3 sessions. Really? That's great." Hua Mingrui was overjoyed. For a long time, the news she had heard was how serious her grandfather's condition was, and how difficult it was to treat him. In the end, he could not be cured. Now that she heard the good news from Qin Haodong, and they were very close, she couldn't help but kiss Qin Haodong's cheek in excitement. Although Li Shuai had been talking to Mu Haiqing, his attention was always on Hua Mingrui. When he saw that Hua Mingrui had secretly kissed Qin Haodong, his face suddenly became extremely ugly. Hua Mingrui was also very embarrassed for her impulse just now. Her white and tender cheeks were so red that it seemed that blood was about to drip down. In order to avoid embarrassment, she quickly changed the topic and said, "I'll go to persuade my uncle now and ask him to allow you to treat my grandfather." Chapter 724. When Qin Haodong was about to speak, there was the sound of messy footsteps at the door. Then a dozen people came in, led by a middle-aged man in a jacket. He was about 50 years old, and looked a little thin, but he was full of energy. He was Xiao Weiman, the first deputy minister of the Ministry of Health of Huaxia. Next to him was a white man with blonde hair and blue eyes. This man was dressed in a suit, and was meticulously dressed. As he walked, he talked to Xiao Weiman in fluent Chinese. This man was Qin Haodong's nominal disciple, James, a cardiopulmonary expert of the World Medical Association. This guy had been practicing Chinese hard, and now he spoke much more fluently than before. If he closed his eyes, he wouldn't be able to tell that he was a foreigner speaking Huaxia. Behind them were more than a dozen doctors in white coats. They were all the top cardiopulmonary experts of the major hospitals in the capital. After seeing these people, Mu Haiqing and Li Shuai hurriedly greeted them and took them into the ward. Seeing these people, both of them realized that this was not a good opportunity to persuade Mu Haiqing to accept the treatment of traditional Chinese medicine. They silently retreated to a corner of the ward, wanting to see if these experts had any good ideas. James was surrounded by these people, and he didn't see Qin Haodong next to him. When Li Shuai saw James, he immediately ran up and said, "Teacher, you're here." When he was studying in M country, he did study with James for a period of time. He was one of his many students. However, James's attitude towards him was relatively cold. He just nodded slightly and didn't say much. It seemed that he was more like an expert invited by the Ministry of Health and had nothing to do with him. After a simple greeting, Xiao Weiman took James to see Old Master Mu's situation and then said to Li Shuai, "Introduce Old Master Mu's situation to these experts." Li Shuai was obviously very excited to make an introduction in front of so many experts. He wanted to find Hua Mingrui and show off his elegance, but he didn't find her after a few glances. Of course, at this time, he didn't allow too much time to waste. He immediately cleared his throat and began to talk. Old Master Mu's main disease is in the lungs. Because he was injured when he was young, he didn't get a thorough treatment in the later stage, and his condition was aggravated by a cold. Now both lungs have thickened, the left costal diaphragm has become blunt, the left pleura has thickened and adhered, accompanied by fluid accumulation. The left upper lung has old pulmonary tuberculosis, and its activity is limited. The lung lobes are showing signs of atrophy, and the pulmonary fibrosis has intensified. James and the other experts were quite relaxed at first, but as they listened to Li Shuai's introduction, their expressions became more and more serious. When they heard that the lung lobes had atrophied and the pulmonary fibrosis had intensified, all of them frowned. After listening to Li Shuai's introduction, James checked the examination materials in detail. Finally, he put them down with a gloomy face. He raised his head and said to Xiao Weiman, "Minister Xiao, I'm sorry. The patient's condition has deteriorated to a certain extent. There's nothing I can do." After he finished speaking, the other experts also nodded one after another. Although they were all well-known experts, not all diseases could be cured. They were helpless when it came to Old Master Mu's illness. Xiao Weiman had spent a lot of effort to invite James. Originally, he had great hopes for him. Now that James said that there was nothing he could do about Old Master Mu's illness, he immediately said anxiously, "Mr. James, you are an expert in cardiopulmonary medicine. Old Master Mu is a hero of our country. You must think of a way." James spread out his hands helplessly and said, "Minister Xiao, I'm really sorry. Everyone is equal in the face of illness. This kind of lung disease is really too serious. There's nothing I can do." He spoke in Huaxia language, so Mu Haiqing could hear him clearly. When he heard that there was no hope for his father, he said anxiously, "Dr. James, please think about it again. Is there any other way? As long as my father's life can be saved, we can do anything." James originally wanted to refuse, but he hesitated for a moment and said, "In fact, there is still a way. If you can find my teacher, with his magical medical skills, he may be able to save Old Master Mu from the hands of death." In order to perform positively in front of the Mu family and win Hua Mingrui's favor, Li Shuai said first, "Teacher, tell me, where is the Grandmaster? I can invite him." "I'm here." Seeing that these experts couldn't do anything, and the old man's condition was urgent and couldn't be delayed any longer, Qin Haodong no longer hid and directly stood out from the side. After he finished speaking, the people in the room immediately looked in the direction of the voice and saw Qin Haodong and Hua Mingrui in the corner. Mu Haiqing frowned. At this moment, he was in an extremely bad mood. He did not expect that the man his niece found was so unreliable that he dared to joke at this time. Before he could speak, Li Shuai had already rushed over. He pointed at Qin Haodong's nose and shouted, "Boy, how dare you take advantage of me?" Qin Haodong said with a smile, "I didn't take advantage of you. He is indeed your grandmaster." "Boy, are you looking for a beating?" In front of so many experts, especially when Hua Mingrui was watching, he was continuously teased by Qin Haodong. Li Shuai was completely angry. He waved his fist and was about to rush over. At this moment, a big hand reached out and grabbed his wrist. "That's right, this is your grandmaster." After James stopped Li Shuai, he strode to Qin Haodong, bowed deeply and said respectfully, "Hello, teacher. Why are you here?" "Teacher? You, old man?" If James was not a well-known cardiopulmonary expert of the World Medical Association, others would have laughed out loud. This young man was only about 20 years old, but James, who was in his 40s, was so respectful. What was going on? Xiao Weiman and Mu Haiqing stood next to them, and were also confused. They did not know what was going on. Li Shuai stood next to them, and he was even more confused. He did not understand what was going on. When he came to his senses, he said to James, "Teacher, did you make a mistake? This guy is not a doctor at all. He is just a security guard." James straightened up and said to him in an extremely stern tone, "What nonsense are you talking about? Although my teacher has a security company, he is the famous medical sage in Jiangnan, and the most outstanding doctor. I tell you, you must apologize to the Grandmaster, or don't call yourself my student in the future." Li Shuai suddenly felt that he was more wrong than Dou Yi, and more bitter than eating Chinese gold thread. He said he was the security guard, but why did he blame him? He was his rival in love. Why did he become the Grandmaster? Qin Haodong did not speak. He looked at Li Shuai with great interest, wondering what his grandson would choose. If Li Shuai chose to bow to him, he would give up his dignity. If he refused James, he would give up his interests. After all, James was a core member of the World Medical Association, and an expert in cardiopulmonary medicine. Having such a teacher would bring him great honor and benefits in the medical industry. Li Shuai hesitated for a long time, and finally chose to bow his head, and whisper to Qin Haodong, "I'm sorry, Grandmaster. I was wrong just now." Qin Haodong shook his head secretly. If Li Shuai insisted on protecting his dignity, it would at least prove that he was sincere to Hua Mingrui and deserved his admiration. Unfortunately, he chose to give up his dignity for interests. Forget it. He waved his hand. He was not even interested in arguing with this kind of person. Li Shuai silently stepped aside, knowing that he would never be able to raise his head in front of Hua Mingrui from now on. Hearing that Qin Haodong was the famous doctor mentioned by James, Mu Haiqing's face flashed with joy. He rebuked Hua Mingrui and said, "You little girl, why didn't you tell me the truth? You are a famous doctor. Why did you lie and say that you are a security guard? Don't you want to treat your grandfather?" Hua Mingrui said hesitantly, "Uncle, I asked Haodong to hide his identity because he is a Chinese medicine practitioner." "Well, stop talking. Since little Qin's medical skills are so excellent, let him treat the old master now. As long as he can cure the old master's illness, we can do anything," Mu Haiqing said eagerly. Suddenly, he came to his senses, and his face changed greatly. "What? A Chinese medicine practitioner?" Hua Mingrui nodded and said, "Yes, Haodong is a Chinese medicine practitioner. Get out. I don't welcome Chinese medicine practitioners here." Mu Haiqing raised his hand and pointed to the door. He was not polite at all. It could be seen how prejudiced he was against Chinese medicine practitioners. "Uncle, what are you doing? I invited Haodong to treat my grandfather." "Stop talking. Chinese medicine practitioners can't cure diseases at all. They are all liars," Mu Haiqing said in a stern voice. "Hurry up and drive him out. I don't welcome Chinese medicine practitioners here." Before Qin Haodong could speak, James was unhappy. He shouted, "Why are you so rude? Why do you have such a big prejudice against Chinese medicine practitioners? Chinese medicine is a very magical medical skill. My teacher is the best doctor. There is no disease that he can't cure." The surrounding experts were stunned by the scene in front of them. A Huaxia man with yellow hair and black eyes was hysterically rejecting traditional Chinese medicine, while a Caucasian man with blonde hair and blue eyes was trying his best to defend traditional Chinese medicine. The scene was really funny. At this time, Xiao Weiman stood up, took 2 steps forward and said to Qin Haodong, "Young man, are you Qin Haodong, the medical sage in Jiangnan, the head of Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company, who invented the blood revival elixir and the Jiubao kidney nourishing pill?" Qin Haodong nodded and said, "Yes, Minister Xiao." "Young man, you're young and promising. You've won glory for our Huaxia people. On behalf of the 4 million leukemia patients, I thank you. Xiao Weiman bowed to Qin Haodong. His bow was not for himself, but for all the leukemia patients in Huaxia. The blood revival elixir had saved countless leukemia patients and countless families at the same time. As the first deputy minister of the Ministry of Health, it was impossible for him not to know the details of the blood revival elixir. He knew that Qin Haodong's blood revival elixir did not make any profit at all. It was sold at the cost price. He had a kind of heartfelt admiration for this kind of doctor, who sincerely considered for the patients. He had always wanted to go to Jiangnan to meet this legendary medical sage, but he didn't expect to meet him today. Qin Haodong quickly helped Xiao Weiman up and said, "Minister Xiao, you flatter me. I just did what a doctor should do. Young man, you're not arrogant or rash. It's rare and commendable." Xiao Weiman turned to Mu Haiqing and said, "Brother Mu, the medical sage is a gold-lettered signboard. He once cured old Maldini's head tumor without surgery and created medical miracles one after another. The blood revival elixir he developed has saved thousands of leukemia patients. Old Master Mu's life is in danger now. I think you should let little Qin have a try." Everyone thought that since Minister Xiao had made a promise for Qin Haodong, Mu Haiqing would accept it gladly. Unexpectedly, he shook his head firmly again and said, "I don't agree. If you want to urge me to update, please go to Zongheng Chinese. 10 monthly tickets plus 1 update. You can't see other websites." Chapter 725. I don't believe in traditional Chinese medicine. It can only harm my father. It can't cure his illness at all. Mu Haiqing roared loudly. His expression was hysterical. Qin Haodong shook his head secretly. It seemed that Mu Haiqing had been deeply affected by the incident that year. His resistance to traditional Chinese medicine had been deeply rooted in his bones. It would not be easy to change it. Xiao Weiman tried to persuade him. "Mr. Mu, Qin Haodong's medical skills have been verified by the whole world. You should trust him." James said, "Mr. Mu, there's no other way but to choose traditional Chinese medicine and my teacher. I can assure you that Western medicine has no effective treatment for the old master's illness at present." Hua Mingrui said, "Uncle, please believe in Haodong. He will definitely be able to cure Grandpa. Are you going to watch Grandpa die?" The three of them tried to persuade him together, but Mu Haiqing was still unmoved. He refused to accept the treatment of traditional Chinese medicine. "We don't have much time." Mu Bison's condition was urgent. Qin Haodong raised his hand to stop the three people who still wanted to persuade him. He stepped forward and grabbed Mu Haiqing's arm. Then there was a crisp crack and Mu Haiqing screamed. Everyone was shocked. They didn't expect that Qin Haodong would hit Mu Haiqing without saying a word. Was he going to use violence to force Mu Haiqing to compromise? But this was the military guest house, which was heavily guarded. Doing so would cause trouble for himself. Seeing Qin Haodong hit Mu Haiqing, Li Shuai, who had been shrinking beside him, immediately became energetic. He jumped out and shouted, "Stop it. You can't touch Mr. Mu." Then he shouted outside the ward, "Guards, come here quickly. He's hitting me." After he finished speaking, there was a flurry of footsteps outside the door, and then 7 or 8 heavily armed guards rushed over. Hua Mingrui hurriedly shouted, "Haodong, don't mess around. Stop it now." Xiao Weiman shouted, "Little Qin, calm down. Don't be impulsive." Qin Haodong had no intention of stopping at all. He reached out his right hand and grabbed Mu Haiqing's neck. Then he gently pressed down with his thumb, and there was another cracking sound. His left hand slid down and pressed on Mu Haiqing's lumbar spine. Crack! Another bone-cracking sound that made one's teeth ache was heard. Then he moved his hands up and pressed on the temples on both sides. Then he withdrew his hands and stood aside. His movements were as smooth as flowing water, incomparably fast. Only after he was done did the guards arrive in position. Li Shuai pointed at Qin Haodong and shouted, "It's him. He hurt people." The head guard's face darkened. Someone dared to fight in the military sanatorium. He immediately pointed at Qin Haodong and shouted, Come on, arrest him. Wait. A few guards were about to rush over, but Mu Haiqing raised his hand to stop them. He moved his shoulders, neck and waist, then looked at Qin Haodong in horror and said, "What did you do to me?" Qin Haodong said lightly, "You don't believe in traditional Chinese medicine, do you? Now I'll show you the magic of traditional Chinese medicine. Your left arm has serious scapulohumeral periarthritis, problems with the fourth cervical vertebra, and the fourth lumbar disc herniation. I just helped you deal with it. Do you feel good now?" Mu Haiqing didn't expect that Qin Haodong would use this method to make him believe in traditional Chinese medicine. He wanted to deny it, but his body was honest. His shoulders, neck, and waist were indeed much more comfortable than before. Qin Haodong continued, "In addition, you haven't had a good rest recently, because you've been worried about old Master Mu's condition. In addition, you've been suffering from migraine before, so your headache has been getting worse and worse recently. It's a vicious cycle. I just helped you treat it. At the same time, you have serious superficial gastritis and gastric ulcers because of your irregular diet. But it's not convenient to massage this position. You need acupuncture or medicine." Mu Haiqing felt his head again. Recently, he had been really worried about his father's condition and couldn't sleep at night. Therefore, the migraine was getting worse and worse. He often hit his head against the wall because of the pain. Now he felt it. Instead of feeling any pain, he felt very comfortable. Hearing that Qin Haodong was treating Mu Haiqing, and it was a complete false alarm, the head guard looked at Li Shuai with disdain and said, "You're a doctor. You can't even see the disease. You're making a fuss. Aren't you making trouble? Retreat." He waved his hand and left the ward with the other guards. Li Shuai looked embarrassed and depressed. He was just a doctor of Western medicine in the department of cardiopulmonary. How could he know that there was such a unique treatment method? After the guards left, the whole room fell into silence. After a while, Mu Haiqing said, "I still don't believe that you can cure my disease by pressing a few times. I think you must have used some trick to deceive me." Qin Haodong said, "It's very simple. We have all kinds of equipment here. You can do a check. If the diseases I just mentioned are not eliminated, then I'll turn around and leave. If the disease has been cured, please believe in my medical skills and Chinese medicine." Hua Mingrui said, "Yes, uncle, you can do a check." Mu Haiqing thought for a moment and finally nodded. He began to do a CT examination of his shoulder, cervical spine and lumbar spine. The equipment here was the most advanced in the world. After a few minutes, the examination results came out. James held the CT film in his hand and shouted excitedly, "My teacher is really amazing. Everything is normal. There are no symptoms of disease." Mu Haiqing didn't believe it. He took the CT film and asked the other experts to look at it one by one. Finally, they gave a unanimous conclusion. The shoulder joint, cervical spine and lumbar spine are very healthy. There is no problem. Hearing this result, Hua Mingrui, Xiao Weiman and James all looked relieved. They thought that Mu Haiqing would definitely accept Qin Haodong's medical skills. But they still underestimated his stubbornness. After knowing that these diseases had been completely cured, he still remained silent and did not say anything. He had done so much, but Mu Haiqing still had the same attitude. Qin Haodong's face immediately darkened. "Mr. Mu, my medical skills are dignified. The reason why I asked to treat Master Meng is that he is a hero of Huaxia and has made great contributions to the people of Huaxia. If you would rather watch your father die for the wrong obsession in your heart, then I have nothing to say. Goodbye." He had done his best. If Mu Haiqing still refused to accept traditional Chinese medicine after saying so much, then he could only let Mu Bison die. After that, he stepped out of the ward. Hua Mingrui shouted anxiously, "Haodong, wait a minute." Qin Haodong did not stop at all and continued to walk out of the ward. Although the two of them were very good friends, he also had to maintain the dignity of traditional Chinese medicine. Since Mu Haiqing did not accept it, there was no need to force him. Hua Mingrui turned around and shouted to Mu Haiqing, "Uncle, the quack doctor failed to cure your disease. It was his medical skills that were not good enough, not the traditional Chinese medicine. Western medicine has never killed a patient, and Western medicine has never misdiagnosed a patient. Grandfather is already on the brink of death. Are you just going to watch him die like this? Just as Qin Haodong was about to walk out of the ward, Mu Haiqing moved. Dr. Qin, wait a minute. It's my fault. Please treat my father. In the end, with Qin Haodong's magical medical skills, Mu Haiqing overcame his psychological barriers and chose to let traditional Chinese medicine treat his father. Everyone present breathed a sigh of relief. Qin Haodong also stopped, turned around and walked back. Since Mu Haiqing had admitted his mistake, he had to treat him for the sake of Hua Mingrui and Mu Bison. He walked to the bed and said to Xiao Weiman, "Little Qin, do you want to see the results of the examination?" Qin Haodong shook his head and said, "No need. I just checked old Master Mu's condition, and I already know what to do." Another middle-aged doctor in the expert group asked, "Dr. Qin, I want to ask you, how do you want to treat old Master Mu?" "Acupuncture and medicine. I can wake old Master Mu up through acupuncture and restore some of his mobility, but because his condition is serious, he still needs to take traditional Chinese medicine." As Qin Haodong spoke, he took out the needle bag from his pocket. Another old doctor asked, "Dr. Qin, old Master Mu's lungs have already shown signs of fibrosis. Will your acupuncture really work?" Qin Haodong said proudly, "Other people's acupuncture may not work, but mine will definitely work." Fibrosis was the most serious kind of lung disease, even more terrible than stomach cancer. If it were someone else, they would really have no way to treat it. However, Qin Haodong was proficient in the rejuvenating acupuncture method, so he could treat pulmonary fibrosis with acupuncture. Hearing his confident words, the other doctors were doubtful. However, they had no good idea now, so they could only quietly watch the young man perform his medical skills. Qin Haodong came to old Master Mu's bedside and reached out to pull out all kinds of equipment and oxygen from his body. Everyone else was shocked. With old Master Mu's current condition, without the support of these equipment, his life would soon be in danger. As expected, as the oxygen was removed, old Master Mu immediately had difficulty breathing, and his face became more and more ugly. Mu Haiqing was shocked, but before he could say anything, Qin Haodong moved as fast as lightning. In the blink of an eye, more than a dozen silver needles were inserted into the major acupoints on Mu Bison's chest. It was amazing. As these silver needles were inserted, old Master Mu's breathing immediately calmed down, and his face became much more relaxed. After seeing this magical effect, Mu Haiqing closed his mouth again, and he had more confidence in Qin Haodong's medical skills. After the silver needles were inserted, Qin Haodong did not stop. His hands kept moving on the end of the needles, and he kept injecting greenwood genuine qi into old Master Mu's body. The greatest feature of the rejuvenating acupuncture method was that it could reorganize human tissues. With the magical effect of greenwood genuine qi on diseases, Mu Bison's condition soon improved greatly. The pulmonary fibrosis was completely removed, and the blocked meridians were completely opened by genuine qi. About 15 minutes later, Qin Haodong raised his hand and withdrew the silver needles. At the same time, he took out a physique-improving pill and put it into old Master Mu's mouth. This physique-improving pill was refined by him and the little fellow yesterday with 5,000-year-old medicinal materials. Both the materials and the refining method had been greatly improved, and the effect of the refined pill was several times better than before. Everyone was watching. Mu Bison's face became more and more ruddy, and his breathing became more and more stable. All the previous symptoms disappeared, and they couldn't help but click their tongues in wonder. They were all experts in this field, and just now they were helpless about old Master Mu's condition. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed that traditional Chinese medicine could have such a magical effect. Seeing that it was almost time, Qin Haodong reached out and patted Mu Bison's chest. Then old Master Mu slowly opened his eyes. Seeing that his father was really saved, Mu Haiqing immediately rushed to the bed, reached out to grab the old man's hand, and cried excitedly, "Dad, you're awake. Are you okay?" Chapter 726. Go away. What are you shouting for? Mu Bison was a soldier, and had a hot temper. He slapped Mu Haiqing's hand away, and then sat up on the bed. The experts in the ward all stared with their eyes wide open. This was a patient who was on the verge of death. In less than half an hour, he sat up on the bed by himself. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, who would believe it? Li Shuai was shocked and bitter. When he saw Hua Mingrui looking at Qin Haodong with admiration and love in her eyes, he knew that there was no hope for him in the future. Mu Bison raised his head and glanced at the white coats in the room. Then he saw Xiao Weiman and asked, "Minister Xiao, why are you here?" "General, you've been seriously ill these days. I've brought someone here to treat you." Although Xiao Weiman was the deputy minister, he was very respectful to the old man who had fought with Taizu. Mu Bison patted his head and cried, "Look at my memory. How could I forget that I was sick before?" After that, he reached out to hold Mu Haiqing's shoulder and stood up from the bed. Then he said to Xiao Weiman, "Minister Xiao, I really want to thank you. Look at how well I've recovered. I haven't been able to get out of bed for a long time, but now I can get out of bed and walk. My chest is not blocked, and I can breathe freely. It's as if I've suddenly become dozens of years younger. I haven't felt so comfortable for a long time." After that, the old man walked slowly. The experts' glasses were all broken. Some even began to pinch themselves secretly to make sure if it was true. In their original idea, even if Qin Haodong could cure the old man, he would have to rest in bed for a period of time. But now it was not the case at all. The old man could actually walk. Xiao Weiman quickly said, "Master, this is not my credit. I don't dare to accept it. It's not us experts who cured you, but someone else." Mu Bison stood there, looked at him in surprise and said, "Who else could it be?" Xiao Weiman pulled Qin Haodong over and said, "Old master, it's him who cured you. He's the medical sage of Huaxia Little Qin. Just now, all of us were helpless about your illness. We even made the final decision. It was Little Qin who saved you." Mu Haiqing looked at Qin Haodong awkwardly and then said to the old man, "Dad, Dr. Qin is Mingrui's boyfriend. Mingrui specially invited him to treat you." "The girl's boyfriend?" Mu Bison's eyes lit up after hearing that. He looked Qin Haodong up and down, as if he was looking at a rare treasure. "Young man, you're not bad. You're worthy of my granddaughter. I'll make the decision about your marriage. No one can object in the future." Although old Master Mu was over 80 years old, he was not stupid. When he saw Qin Haodong's ordinary clothes, he thought that he was a child of an ordinary family. He felt that there would be great resistance if he was with Hua Mingrui, so he stood up to support him. However, he did not expect that Qin Haodong's boyfriend was fake. In the face of such a misunderstanding, Qin Haodong could not explain it, so he could only smile awkwardly. Hua Mingrui said shyly, "Grandpa, you've just recovered and you're talking nonsense." Mu Bison said, "You little girl, I'm not talking nonsense. You're not young anymore. What's there to be embarrassed about having a boyfriend? I think this young man is really good. You must hold on to him. Don't let him run away." After saying that, he laughed out loud. Mu Haiqing said to Qin Haodong, "Little Qin, it was my fault just now. Now I formally apologize to you. Tell me how to treat your grandfather's illness. Just tell me what you need me to do." Qin Haodong looked embarrassed. This family was really generous. In such a short time, he had an uncle and a grandfather. Mr. Mu's illness is only half cured now. I'll give him acupuncture again, and add Chinese medicine to recuperate. Then Qin Haodong took a pen and paper, wrote a prescription and handed it to Mu Haiqing. At present, according to this prescription, take it 3 times a day after meals. I'll come back in a week to give him acupuncture. Hua Mingrui said, "Haodong, will my grandfather's body be completely cured after the treatment?" Qin Haodong said, "Of course. With your body, it's not a problem for you to live to 100 years old." If this came out of someone else's mouth, everyone would think that it was flattery, but no one doubted it at all when Qin Haodong said it. After all, his medical skills were really amazing. Mu Bison asked excitedly, "Boy, can I drink after I'm cured?" "Of course," Qin Haodong said. "But you're an old man after all. You should drink in moderation. Don't drink too much." "That's great. I haven't drunk for several years. I'm not willing to die like this." He turned around and said to Mu Haiqing and Hua Mingrui, "You all heard it. Little Qin said that I can drink. Don't stop me in the future." Looking at the old man's serious expression, everyone couldn't help laughing. After chatting for a while, the old man lay in bed to rest. Xiao Weiman said to Qin Haodong, "Little Qin, my wife's cervical vertebra has been very bad these years, and it's very serious. Many doctors haven't been able to cure it. Can you please come to my house to see her?" Qin Haodong never refused to see a doctor. He simply said, "Of course." As the first deputy minister of the Ministry of Health, Xiao Weiman could be said to be in charge of all the famous doctors in Huaxia. He had also taken his wife to see many doctors, but there was no effect. Originally, he had already given up hope, but after seeing Qin Haodong's medical skills today, he immediately had hope again. Mu Bison lay in bed to rest, and Hua Mingrui stayed to take care of him. The other experts left the sanatorium one after another. Xiao Weiman rushed to his home with Qin Haodong. According to his rank, Xiao Weiman had a special car, but he didn't take his own car. Instead, he got in Qin Haodong's car. Qin Haodong started the car and asked while driving, "Minister Xiao, is Auntie's cervical vertebra very serious?" "It's indeed very serious." Xiao Weiman sighed and said, "Her cervical vertebra canal is congenital stenosis, and the nerves in the spinal canal are twisted and deformed. There's no way to operate at all. Over the years, I have taken her to see many famous doctors, but there was no effect. On the contrary, as she grew older, her condition became more and more serious. Due to insufficient blood supply, she is very dizzy. Recently, she has fallen several times. Fortunately, she is not seriously injured, but I don't dare to let her go to work. She has been recuperating at home." "Oh," Qin Haodong nodded. This was also what he had expected. If it were an ordinary disease, it would have been cured long ago with the medical level of the capital. Speaking of this, Xiao Weiman asked, "Little Dr. Qin, can your aunt's disease be cured?" Now Qin Haodong was his last hope. If even this doctor couldn't cure his wife's disease, he would really be desperate. Qin Haodong smiled and said, "No problem, I can cure it." In terms of the condition, Xiao Weiman's wife's disease was a difficult and complicated disease, which had exceeded the current medical level. However, his medical skills were also far beyond the current medical level. Others couldn't do anything about the congenital narrowing of the spinal canal, but he could slowly widen it with the greenwood genuine qi. As for the nerve knot in the spine, he could open the knot with the Bodhi's hand. Xiao Weiman's home was not too far from the military sanatorium. Soon they arrived downstairs. After parking the car, they walked upstairs together. Opening the door, they saw that it was a house of about 80 square meters. The decoration was also ordinary. This kind of house was good for ordinary families, but it was a little shabby for a deputy ministerial cadre like Xiao Weiman. Qin Haodong nodded secretly. It seemed that Minister Xiao was indeed a good official. "Shuyuan, I'm back." Xiao Weiman's wife's name was Liao Shuyuan. He greeted her and took Qin Haodong to the living room. After entering the door, he saw that there was someone at home. Liao Shuyuan was sitting on the sofa in the living room. Opposite her was a white-haired old man in his 70s, who was feeling her pulse. Next to him stood a middle-aged man in his 50s. He was Yang Haizheng, the director of the Sanitary Bureau of the capital. Qin Haodong was slightly stunned when he saw the old man. He didn't expect to meet an old acquaintance at Minister Xiao's home. The old man was Su Hongba, a professor of traditional Chinese medicine at the Shanghai Medical College. It turned out that Yang Haizheng knew that Liao Shiyuan's condition had worsened, so he invited Su Hongba to treat her. Seeing Xiao Weiman enter the door, Liao Shiyuan said, "Old Xiao, you're back. Director Yang invited Dr. Su to treat me. She just nodded to Qin Haodong, who was behind Xiao Weiman. She thought that this young man was the new driver of the department. Xiao Weiman nodded to Yang Haijing and said, Director Yang, sorry to trouble you with my wife's illness. Yang Haijing quickly said, It's no trouble at all. It just so happens that Master Su is in the capital these days, so I invited him to treat sister-in-law. He was very satisfied with what had happened today. Xiao Weiman was his immediate superior. He invited Su Hongba here today to please him. It was perfect that Xiao Weiman met him. If Su Hongba could cure Liao Shiyuan's illness, it would be perfect. Su Hongba withdrew his hand, stood up and greeted Xiao Weiman. Suddenly, he saw Qin Haodong next to him and said in surprise, Little Qin, I didn't expect to meet you here. It seems that Ms. Liao's illness can be cured. Hello, Master Su. Qin Haodong greeted him politely. Yang Haijing asked in surprise, Master Su, who is this little brother? He is the developer of the blood revival elixir, the famous medical sage Qin Haodong. Although little Qin is young, his medical skills are hundreds of times better than mine. Su Hongba said excitedly. To be honest, I can't do anything about Ms. Liao's illness. I can only relieve the symptoms of dizziness and headache with some traditional Chinese medicine, but I can't get rid of the root cause of the disease. But it's different with little Qin. He must have a way. After hearing his words, Yang Haijing and Liao Shuyuan were slightly stunned. One of them was the director of the Sanitary Bureau, and the other was the wife of the Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Health. They had long heard of the famous medical sage, but they didn't expect him to be so young. Xiao Weiman said, Little Qin just cured old Master Mu's illness. I happened to meet him, so I invited him home. What? Old Master Mu's illness has been cured? As the director of the Sanitary Bureau of the capital, he had also visited old Master Mu before. He knew how serious old Master Mu's illness was, so he was surprised to hear that Qin Haodong had cured Mu Bison. Xiao Weiman said with a smile, Little Qin's medical skills are really amazing. Old Master Mu can walk now. Dr. Qin, you are really young and promising. Yang Haijing quickly reached out his hands and shook hands with Qin Haodong enthusiastically. Although he was the director of the Sanitary Bureau, he was the medical sage of Huaxia, a really capable person. Qin Haodong shook hands with him, and then said to Su Hongba, Master Su, how is Auntie Liao's illness? Su Hongba briefly told him the result of his pulse feeling, which was basically the same as Xiao Weiman's introduction. Then he said, Little Qin, I can't do anything about this kind of difficult disease. It's up to you. Chapter 727. Qin Haodong nodded and said to Liao Shuyuan, Auntie, let me show you. Seeing that her husband and Su Hongba admired the young man in front of her so much, it seemed that the medical sage deserved his reputation. Liao Shuyuan stretched out her left hand and said, Little Qin, sorry to trouble you. Qin Haodong reached out to feel her pulse, and confirmed the position of cervical stenosis and nerve knot. Then he took out the needle bag from his pocket, and began to give Liao Shuyuan acupuncture treatment. First, he used silver needles to seal a few acupoints around the affected area of the cervical vertebra, to prevent severe pain when the cervical vertebra was expanded. Then he stretched out the index finger of his right hand and pressed on the Dazui acupoint of the cervical vertebra, slowly injecting greenwood genuine qi. According to the plan, he first used his genuine qi to slowly expand the narrow spinal canal. After about 10 minutes, it reached the level of a normal person. Due to the nourishment of the greenwood genuine qi, there were no hidden dangers when the spinal canal expanded. Then he began to use the Bodhi hand, using his true qi to transform into 2 nimble little hands, and slowly untied the knotted nerves. This kind of operation was already equivalent to a minor surgery. Under the observation of the primordial spirit, he could clearly see the node of the neuron. Like unbuttoning a button, he opened it with the Bodhi hand. After doing all this, he began to nourish the blocked meridians around the cervical vertebra with greenwood genuine qi. Half an hour later, The cervical spondylosis that had troubled Liao Shuyuan for many years was completely cured. Qin Haodong took back the silver needles and said, "The treatment is over. Auntie, how do you feel now?" "All right, my head doesn't hurt anymore. And I'm not dizzy anymore." Liao Shuyuan felt an unprecedented sense of comfort in her head. It was as if the whole world had become much clearer, and her mind was clearer. Even her thoughts were more active. She stood up from the sofa, spun a few times on the spot, and jumped a few times. If she had done this before, she would have definitely fallen, but now nothing happened. She felt unprecedentedly relaxed. "Little Qin, your medical skills are really amazing. Thank you, I really want to thank you," Liao Shuyuan said as tears welled up in her eyes. Although cervical spondylosis was not fatal, it had been bothering her health for years. She had no quality of life at all. Recently, she couldn't even go to work. Xiao Weiman also asked in disbelief, "Little Qin, has your aunt's illness been completely cured? Do you want to do something else?" Qin Haodong said, "You don't need to do anything. Auntie's cervical vertebra is healthier than anyone else's. You just need to pay attention to the computer and mobile phone in the future." Su Hongba praised, "Medical sage is really a medical sage. I can't do anything about this kind of difficult and complicated disease, but you cured it in an instant. I really feel inferior." Yang Haijing then said, "I've been in the medical field for so many years and have seen countless famous doctors, but this is the first time I've seen such magical medical skills. Today, I've learned something new." Xiao Weiman took out a bank card from his pocket and said, "Little Qin, here's 100,000 yuan for your aunt's medical expenses. Don't think it's too little." Qin Haodong said, "Minister Xiao, you're treating me like an outsider. She's my aunt. Why do you still charge me for medical fees? Are you treating me like an outsider?" After entering the house, he admired Minister Xiao and his wife very much. They didn't put on airs at all. In the future, he would need Xiao Weiman's help to develop traditional Chinese medicine. Of course, he wouldn't charge for the treatment. Moreover, 100,000 yuan was nothing to him now. Xiao Weiman could only take back the card when he saw that Qin Haodong really didn't accept it. Liao Shuyuan said, "It's already noon. Don't leave. I'll cook some dishes to thank little Qin. Let's have a drink together." She was originally very good at cooking, but unfortunately, she had been troubled by cervical spondylosis recently and hadn't cooked for a long time. Today, she was well and decided to show off her skills. Qin Haodong didn't stand on ceremony. Yang Haijing naturally wouldn't let go of the opportunity to get closer to Xiao Weiman, so they stayed together. Everyone sat on the sofa and chatted. Qin Haodong said to Su Hongba, "Elder Su, why are you here in the capital?" Su Hongba looked at him meaningfully and said, "I came to the capital because of you." Qin Haodong said in surprise, "What does this have to do with me?" Su Hongba said, "Why not? After you dropped out of the medical college, Su Hui also went through the formalities to quit school. Now she has opened a traditional Chinese medicine clinic in the capital. As a grandfather, how could I be at ease? That's why I came to take a look." Qin Haodong didn't expect Su Hui to come to the capital. Needless to say, she must have followed him here. Yang Haijing heard some clues and said with a smile, "Elder Su, I have seen your granddaughter. She can be said to be an outstanding beauty. She is really a good match for Dr. Qin." Su Hongba glared at Qin Haodong and said, "My granddaughter is also a proud person. Countless boys pursued her since she was a child, but none of them caught her eye. Now she likes little Qin, but this guy doesn't appreciate it. He didn't even tell Su Hui when he dropped out of school, and came to the capital without saying a word." Seeing that he was condemned by the old man, Qin Haodong quickly changed the topic. "Elder Su, Su Hui hasn't graduated yet, has she? How did you open a clinic?" Su Hongba said, "Su Hui has liked traditional Chinese medicine since she was a child. She is very talented. Over the years, she has learned most of my skills. Even if she stayed in school, she wouldn't be able to learn anything, so I didn't stop her from quitting school. Last year, under the joint recommendation of us old guys, She also got the physician's qualification certificate. She couldn't let go of someone in her heart, so she opened a clinic in the capital. Speaking of this, Qin Haodong couldn't continue. He really had a kind of escape from Su Hui, so he didn't say goodbye when he left the capital. He didn't speak, but Su Hongba didn't want to let him go. I met you here today. I'll go back to Shanghai now. I'll leave Su Hui to you. If my precious granddaughter loses a hair, I'll settle the score with you. Qin Haodong wanted to refuse, but he couldn't find any reason. Fortunately, Liao Shuyuan had prepared the dishes at this time. She served a table full of delicious dishes and asked everyone to come to the table. Xiao Weiman was very happy today. He took out a bottle of Wuliangya that had been treasured for many years and poured a cup for everyone. After that, they drank heartily and chatted while eating. After 3 rounds of drinking, Xiao Weiman said with emotion, "Little Qin, I didn't expect that there would be such a great doctor like you in the decline of traditional Chinese medicine. It's really a blessing for traditional Chinese medicine. Come on, let me propose a toast to you." Yes, little Qin is really the mainstay of traditional Chinese medicine. With him, I see the hope of traditional Chinese medicine. Su Hongba also raised his glass and toasted Qin Haodong with Yang Haizheng. The few of them clinked their glasses and drained the wine in one gulp. Great. Su Hongba put down his glass and said, "Traditional Chinese medicine is the treasure left by our ancestors to us, but now it's declining. If traditional Chinese medicine is really finished, we won't be able to face our ancestors after we die." Xiao Weiman said, "Mr. Su is right. Traditional Chinese medicine can't die. If there are more traditional Chinese medicine doctors like little Qin in our country, traditional Chinese medicine will flourish." Su Hongba looked at Qin Haodong and said, "It's rare for you to have such skills. You can't hide them. You should teach more students." Yang Haizheng said, "Dr. Qin, Mr. Su is right. You should go to a university to teach and make more contributions to the development of traditional Chinese medicine." Qin Haodong said with a wry smile, "Director Yang, you must be joking. I'm just a little doctor of traditional Chinese medicine who hasn't even gotten a college diploma. Which university will hire me as a teacher?" Xiao Weiman said, "Education doesn't mean everything. There are many doctors with education in Huaxia, but none of them can reach your level." Yang Haizheng said, "Yes, with your medical skills, you are qualified to teach experts and national masters, let alone a few college students." Su Hongba said, "Boy, tell me directly, are you willing to be a teacher or not?" Seeing that the old man was really serious, Qin Haodong said, "To tell you the truth, I have a lot of things to do. It's impossible for me to be a full-time teacher, but I can take some time to teach a few classes." Su Hongba said, "Well, Zhao Yonggang, the principal of the Imperial Medical College, is my student. I'll call him and ask him to let you be a guest teacher." Qin Haodong thought for a moment. He had completely subdued the 7 great families in the capital. There was not much to do before the alien demons took action. So he nodded and said, "Well, as long as the school agrees, I can teach a few classes." Seeing Qin Haodong nod, Su Hongba took out his mobile phone and dialed Zhao Yonggang's number. A few minutes later, he hung up and said to Qin Haodong excitedly, "I've already talked to him, and he agreed very quickly. You can go to his place this afternoon." Qin Haodong said worriedly, "Mr. Su, have you told him my situation clearly?" "I've made it clear. Although you don't have a diploma, and you haven't graduated from college, your medical skills are absolutely convincing." Zhao Yonggang also said that he values ability, not education. There happens to be a shortage of teachers there, so you can go this afternoon. Qin Haodong looked at the time. It was already 1 o'clock in the afternoon. He said, "Mr. Su, isn't it a little too urgent?" Su Hongba said, "How can it not be urgent? If you go to one more class, you may cultivate a group of good Chinese medicine practitioners." Qin Haodong said with a wry smile, "Well, I'll go there in a minute." Since Qin Haodong had something to do in the afternoon, they didn't drink much. After finishing a bottle of Wuliangya, the meal was finished. Su Hongba was going to go with them, but Qin Haodong refused. He relied on his own ability to teach. If he took Su Hongba with him, it would inevitably give people a feeling that he relied on his connections. Qin Haodong walked into the gate of the Imperial Medical College. He didn't expect that he would come to the Imperial Medical College as soon as he left the Jiangnan Medical College. However, his identity was changed from a student to a teacher. As soon as he walked in, his cell phone rang. He looked at the caller ID and found that it was Alice, the president of the World Medical Association. President Alice, what can I do for you? On the other side of the phone, Alice said in a charming voice, Dear Qin, you recognized my voice at once. Have you been thinking about me? Qin Haodong was speechless for a while. He thought to himself, is there no such thing as caller ID in China? Or does this beautiful foreign woman deliberately want to get closer to me? He said again, President Alice, what's the matter? Alice got to the point and said, James just called me and said that you used traditional Chinese medicine to cure a patient with pulmonary fibrosis. Qin Haodong said, yes. At the same time, he was very confused. He didn't know what the president of the World Medical Association wanted to do. Alice said, Qin, I've seen the magic of traditional Chinese medicine, but many people in the World Medical Association don't believe in traditional Chinese medicine. I want to organize an investigation group and take them to Huaxia to see your medical skills. What do you think? Chapter 728. Okay, no problem. You're very welcome. Qin Haodong agreed without hesitation. It was rare for the World Medical Association to organize a special investigation team to visit a certain country, so he naturally knew the significance of this. Traditional Chinese medicine was weak now. If he could win the approval of the delegation of the World Medical Association this time, the influence of traditional Chinese medicine in the world would inevitably be greatly enhanced, and the degree of recognition of the people would also rise. When the influence of traditional Chinese medicine increased, more patients would naturally come to see traditional Chinese medicine, and a large number of young people would learn traditional Chinese medicine. Therefore, this visit by the World Medical Association was an extremely rare opportunity for traditional Chinese medicine. At the same time, it was also a double-edged sword. If he couldn't win the approval of these arrogant experts, the negative impact would be extremely terrible. Qin Haodong didn't care about this. He was confident that he could definitely conquer the whole world in terms of medical skills. On the other side of the phone, Alice said excitedly, That's great, Qin. I can see you again. I left in a hurry last time and didn't have the chance to taste the legendary Huaxia food. This time, you must take me to have a good meal. In the end, she even used a Huaxia dialect that she had just learned. No problem. I'm afraid you won't want to go back to M country if you eat too much. Alice said, It doesn't matter. Then I'll stay in Huaxia and eat with you for the rest of my life. Qin Haodong didn't know whether the president of the World Medical Association didn't understand the Huaxia language, or she said it intentionally. In short, her words were a little ambiguous. Qin Haodong was still worried about Su Hui just now, so he didn't dare to provoke this foreign woman. He quickly changed the topic and said, President Alice, when will your delegation arrive in Huaxia? We can set off at any time. We're expected to arrive in Huaxia tomorrow. Alice said, But we have a lot of people. You have to find a suitable place. It's best to have a classroom, so that you can introduce traditional Chinese medicine and show it to everyone. President Alice, your call is really timely. I just joined the Capital Medical College, and we'll go there to attend classes tomorrow. Then you can bring the delegation to the medical college. Alice said, That's great. It's perfect. Qin Haodong thought for a moment and said, President Alice, after all, I just joined the Capital Medical College. It's not appropriate for me to contact your delegation directly. You'd better contact the school through the Ministry of Health of Huaxia, and then come here for an exchange. That would be better. No problem. I know Chinese people have a lot of rules, I am very familiar with the Ministry of Health of China. I will contact Minister Xiao later. Seeing that Alice knew Xiao Weiman, Qin Haodong didn't say anything more. They chatted for a while, and then hung up the phone. After making the call, he walked into the school's office building, found the principal's office, knocked on the door, and walked in. Hello, Headmaster Zhao, I'm Qin Haodong. Principal Zhao Yonggang sat behind his spacious desk and looked at the young man in front of him, who was younger than his students. He couldn't help but frown. It seemed that this teacher of his was really muddle-headed, letting such a young man, who was younger than the students, teach at his own university. If word got out, wouldn't he be laughed at? Oh, it's little Qin. What's the matter? Zhao Yonggang asked with a fake smile. Qin Haodong said, President Zhao, Mr. Su just called you and asked me to report to you. Oh, that's it, Zhao Yonggang said, but his expression was quite cold. Qin Haodong immediately noticed that something was wrong. He asked, President Zhao, is there any inconvenience? Zhao Yonggang said, it's like this, little Qin. You see, there are a lot of teachers in our school recently. Several teachers who have just graduated with doctorates can't arrange courses. It's really not convenient for you to come. Qin Haodong frowned slightly. He didn't come here to find a job, nor for the salary. It was all for the cause of traditional Chinese medicine. He believed that Su Hongba thought the same. If Zhao Yonggang didn't agree before, he wouldn't have any complaints. But this guy was a bit two-faced. First, he promised Su Hongba, and then in the blink of an eye, he used the matter of education to pressure him. This was a little too unkind. You mean there are no vacancies in the school, right? Zhao Yonggang still had a fake smile on his face. Little Qin, I'm really sorry. There are too many people in the school recently. I'll contact you when there are vacancies. President Zhao, you just said that there were vacancies. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come. Little Qin, please understand. Mr. Su was my former teacher. How can I refuse him? Qin Haodong finally understood. It turned out that this old guy didn't want to offend Su Hongba, so he played a trick on him. In that case, I'm leaving. President Zhao doesn't need to contact me in the future, and I won't step into the Imperial Medical College again. After that, Qin Haodong turned around and walked out of the door. In a popular saying, it was the school's loss to reject him. Zhao Yonggang obviously didn't realize this. He said behind him, Little Qin, I'll talk to Mr. Su myself. There's no need to trouble you. Okay. Qin Haodong gently said 2 words, and then left the Imperial Medical College. As soon as Xiao Weiman arrived at the office, he received a call from Alice. Hearing that the World Medical Association was coming to Huaxia to investigate traditional Chinese medicine, he happily agreed. After a brief communication between the two, he hung up the phone and called his secretary, Xiao Zhang. Contact the Capital Medical College immediately and tell them that the World Medical Association will come for an investigation tomorrow and specially attend Qin Haodong's course. Ask them to arrange the reception work? Okay, director, I'll inform them now. After that, Xiao Zhang took the notebook and went to the side to make a phone call. He was a college student who had just graduated this year and majored in secretarial affairs. He was very unfamiliar with the medical industry and had never heard of Qin Haodong's name. When he was on the phone, he felt that it was a little impolite to call Qin Haodong's name directly, so he directly changed it to Professor Qin. As soon as Zhao Yonggang saw Qin Haodong off, the phone on his desk rang. He picked up the phone and heard that the World Medical Association was coming to the Imperial Medical College for an investigation. He was immediately overjoyed. The World Medical Association represented the highest level of medicine in the world. It was definitely a glorious thing to be able to come to his school for an investigation. Other schools might not be able to get it. After hanging up the phone, his face was full of joy. It seemed that his luck had come. As long as he seized this opportunity, he would definitely win the favor of the leader of the Ministry of Health. If he did well, he would be able to go further. After the excitement, he also had a trace of doubt in his heart. Old Qin was just an ordinary professor in their school, and his teaching level was also ordinary. Why did the World Medical Association want to attend his class? Could it be that he had used his connections? It must be like this. This old man had hidden his identity quite well. It seemed that he had to take care of him in the future. Qin Haodong left the Imperial Medical College and got in the car. He thought of Su Hui that Su Hongba had mentioned. A girl came to the capital for him and struggled here alone. It was really pitiful. It would be inappropriate for him not to go and see her. Thinking of this, he took out his mobile phone, typed in the words Donghui Clinic of Traditional Chinese Medicine, and then drove forward according to the map. At this time, gangsters with tattoos all over their bodies were blocking the door of the Donghui Clinic of Traditional Chinese Medicine. They blocked the door of the clinic and did not allow anyone to enter. Inside the clinic, Su Hui stood behind the consultation desk with a face full of anger, and a young man in his 30s was sitting opposite her. The young man was tall and fat, and his body was also covered with tattoos. He was wearing a thick and long gold chain around his neck, which was enough to be used to tie up a dog. The guy's face was full of muscles. At this time, he was staring at Su Hui with a lascivious smile, as if he wanted to stare into Su Hui's white and tender skin. The two gangsters, a yellow-haired man and a green-haired man, stood behind him and cheered. Su Hui glared at the man with the big gold chain and shouted, "What do you want?" The man with the big gold chain said with a lascivious smile, "Little girl, didn't I tell you that I'm here to see a doctor? As long as you can cure my illness, I will immediately take my men and leave. If you can't cure my illness, this clinic will be closed." Su Hui said angrily, "But I've already felt your pulse. You're in good health. There's nothing wrong with you." The man with the big gold chain said with a smile, "That's impossible. I used to be famous for having sex 7 times a night, but now I can't even do it once in 7 days. How can it be possible that I'm not sick?" Su Hui said angrily, "I can't treat your illness. I've already called Grandpa. You can wait for my grandpa to come, or you can go to another clinic." "How can I do that? You're a doctor, so I'll treat you." Su Hui knew that she had met a hooligan. She said angrily, "I can't treat your illness. How is that possible? Recently, everyone has said that your medical skills are good, and you can cure any illness. I think you don't want to treat my brother well. People say that if you have a headache, you can cure the head, and if you have a foot ache, you can cure the foot. I'm sick here. Why did you touch my wrist? If you want to touch it, you should touch it here and then treat me well." After saying that, the man with the big gold chain pointed at his legs. Then he burst into wild laughter. The yellow-haired gangster also laughed and said, "That's right. You didn't treat our brother well at all. How can you say that you can't treat him? If you can't use your hands, you can use your mouth. As a doctor, you must be serious. As long as our brother is satisfied, he will come to your business every day in the future." Su Hui was so angry that her pretty face turned pale. She raised her hand and pointed at them, shouting, "Get out of here. If you do this again, I'll call the police." The man with the big gold chain said shamelessly, "Call the police? Sure. I'm here to see a doctor. What can the police do to me?" The green-haired gangster said, "Little girl, I'm telling you, if you offend our brother on this street, you won't be able to open your clinic in the future." The man with the big gold chain chuckled and said, "Little girl, come on. Let me have a good look and check my body. Get out. Get out of here. Get out of here, all of you." Su Hui had just left the campus and had never suffered such grievances. At this time, she was so angry that tears welled up in her eyes and her body began to tremble. "Oh, little girl, why are you so excited? I feel sorry for you." The man with the big gold chain stood up from the chair and said, "Well, since you don't want to check my body, I'll take a step back. I've also learned some medical skills." "Let me check your body. You scoundrel, don't come over or I'll call for help," Su Hui said as she stepped back, but the room was not big. Soon, her back hit the wall, and there was no way back. The man with the big gold chain showed his big teeth and said with a lewd smile, Little girl, call for help, he said with a smile. Little girl, scream. Scream louder. The more you scream, the more excited I am. On this street, no one dares to ruin my business even if you shout yourself hoarse. Chapter 729. Don't come over. Don't come over. Facing the approaching man, Su Hui became at a loss. Suddenly, she picked up a small flower pot on the windowsill with both hands and smashed it hard on the man's head. With a crash, the flower pot shattered, and dark red blood and mud flowed down from the head of the man with the golden chain. Ah! The man screamed and lowered his head to shake off the broken pieces of the flower pot and mud on his head. Su Hui took this opportunity to run out, but the yellow-haired man and the green-haired man had been guarding beside her and immediately blocked her way. The man with the gold chain stood up again and looked at Su Hui with gritted teeth. Bitch, how dare you hit me? I'll let my brothers take turns with you today. After that, he stretched out his big hairy hand and grabbed at Su Hui's chest with his fangs and claws. At this moment, there was a loud bang at the door. Then the gangsters guarding the door were blown away like fallen leaves swept by a strong wind. At this time, the man with the gold chain gritted his teeth and ignored what was happening at the door. He still reached out to grab Su Hui's chest, but when he grabbed it, he felt as if he had grabbed an iron plate. It was not a woman's chest at all. He looked up and saw that a young man had appeared in front of Su Hui, shielding her tightly behind him. Get out of here. Qin Haodong secretly rejoiced that he had arrived in time. Otherwise Su Hui would have fallen into the hands of this hooligan. He kicked the man's lower abdomen and sent him flying. Then he turned around and said to Su Hui, How are you? Are you all right? Seeing that her sweetheart suddenly fell from the sky, Su Hui could no longer hold back the grievance in her heart. She threw herself into Qin Haodong's arms and cried. Before the man with the gold chain came to his senses, he was kicked away. This guy was furious. He had been successful in picking up girls in the past, but today he was beaten like a dog. He got up from the ground and shouted to the gangsters who had gathered behind him, Brothers, kill him for me. These gangsters were sent flying by Qin Haodong before they figured out what was going on. They were all angry and took out steel one after another. Chop. The knife rushed toward Qin Haodong. Wait a moment. Let me deal with this trash first. Qin Haodong patted Su Hui on the shoulder and asked her to stand behind him. Then he turned around and faced these gangsters. With his skills, these people were not much different from flies. In the blink of an eye, these 7 or 8 hooligans were all knocked to the ground, leaving only the big gold chain. You don't come any closer. If you come any closer, I'll call for help. The man with the gold chain finally understood that he had met a tough guy today. He looked at Qin Haodong in horror and slowly stepped back. Soon his back hit the wall. The scene at this time was exactly the same as when he had just humiliated Su Hui, but the roles had been reversed. He had become the weak party being bullied. Qin Haodong looked at the big gold chain and smiled. Boy, don't you want to be cured? Didn't you want to have a physical examination? I'm also a doctor, let me treat you. No need, I'm fine. The man with the golden chain curled up his tall body in the corner of the wall and crossed his arms over his chest. He looked like a young girl who had met a pervert. How can you do that? Didn't you come to our clinic to see a doctor? Just now you said that you were impotent. Now I'll cure you completely. As Qin Haodong spoke, he gently tiptoed and kicked the man's legs. Suddenly, crack! Seeing this scene, the gangsters couldn't help but tremble all over, and the sound of eggs breaking unconsciously rang in their minds. The man with the golden chain suddenly let out a heart-wrenching howl, and then covered his crotch with both hands. He jumped more than a meter high, then fell to the ground with a thump, rolling nonstop. Qin Haodong seemed to have done a trivial thing, and said with a faint smile, How good is this? You don't have to worry about impotence in the future. Once and for all, you'll be cured completely. The man with the golden chain howled and shouted to the gangsters next to him. What the hell are you waiting for? Call my brother-in-law quickly. Many gangsters looked at Qin Haodong in fear and couldn't help clamping their legs. No one dared to touch their mobile phones. Finally, the yellow-haired man boldly ran out of the door, took out his mobile phone, and began to make a call. Qin Haodong didn't care about this and didn't stop him. He was very happy to see the man with the golden chain find his backer and solve the problem once and for all. Otherwise, it would affect Su Hui's business in the future. He turned around and helped Su Hui tidy up her messy hair. He helped her sit down in the chair again and then asked softly, "How are you? Did I scare you?" After seeing Qin Haodong, Su Hui's heart immediately calmed down a lot. This man could give her enough sense of security. She nodded and said, "I'm fine." "That's good." Qin Haodong poured another glass of water and put it in front of her. Su Hui hesitated for a moment and said, "Haodong, why don't we call the police?" Qin Haodong said with a smile, "Don't worry. There's no need to bother the police to deal with these scumbags. He was more useful to deal with these gangsters than the police. After all, the police couldn't stay here all the time." At this moment, there was an ear-piercing sound of brakes outside the door. 4 or 5 off-road vehicles stopped in front of the clinic. Then a young man jumped out of the car and rushed to the clinic aggressively, followed by 7 or 8 bodyguards in black suits. After seeing the young man, Qin Haodong couldn't help sneering. It turned out that the brother-in-law mentioned by the man with the golden chain was also an old acquaintance, Qin Chong, the young master of the Qin family. Qin Chong rushed into the Donghui Clinic of traditional Chinese medicine with his bodyguards. Although he had been pursuing Wei Yanran as a young master of an aristocratic family, he couldn't stay still. Every night, he would go to the nightclub to have fun. Not long ago, he met a delinquent girl who was very beautiful, and the two of them hooked up. The man with the golden chain was the brother of the delinquent girl. With the support of the young master of the Qin family, he was even more unscrupulous. He ran amok on the street and became a local tyrant. A few days ago, Su Hui opened a clinic here, and he happened to meet her. Of course, he wouldn't let go of such a beautiful woman. Today, he came to take Su Hui as his own, which led to the following things. As the young master of the Qin family, Qin Chong certainly wouldn't take ordinary people seriously. He raised his chin and walked into the clinic with a proud face. When he saw the man with the golden chain lying on the ground and dying, he was shocked and asked, "San Gongzi, what the hell happened to you? Have you been castrated?" At this time, an indifferent voice sounded, "You're right. His balls were indeed broken by me." "Who the hell are you? How dare you touch my woman?" Qin Chong was infuriated. Although he had never thought of marrying that delinquent girl, they had a deep friendship after all. This big gold chain was also the person under his protection. Now that his balls were broken by someone, how could he put his face if it was spread out? But when he turned around and saw the handsome face in front of him, he suddenly felt like a big goose being strangled and couldn't say a word. Qin Haodong, why are you here?" Qin Haodong smiled slightly and said, "Young Master Qin, this is my Chinese medicine clinic. I should be asking you, what are you doing here?" In order to prevent anyone from coming here to make trouble in the future, he directly said that this clinic was his. Qin Chong couldn't find a suitable excuse for a while. Originally, he had come to seek revenge for the man with the golden chain, but after seeing Qin Haodong, he didn't dare to do so. At this time, the man with the golden chain crawled over, stretched out his hands and hugged Qin Chong's thigh, crying, "Brother-in-law, you must help me. You must help me get revenge. It's this gigolo boy who beat me. Hurry up and help me destroy him." Qin Haodong sneered and said, "Brother-in-law? It seems that young Master Qin is a relative of this man." "No, I don't know him at all." Qin Chong couldn't afford to offend Qin Haodong, so he quickly kicked the man away. The man with the golden chain had just been kicked in the balls, and now he was kicked again. He was suddenly dizzy and screamed, "Brother-in-law, did you kick the wrong person?" "Why did you kick me? Kick that gigolo boy. See? A relative is a relative. It's useless to deny it. Qin Haodong said with a playful face. Young Master Qin, your brother-in-law smashed my Chinese medicine clinic. What do you think I should do? I really don't know him. Although Qin Haodong smiled warmly, this smile made Qin Chong feel very uncertain. He made up his mind to disassociate himself from the man with the golden chain. Qin Haodong didn't pay attention to him at all. He said, Look, my good shop was smashed like this by your men. I have to compensate for some economic and mental damage. How about this, for the sake of our acquaintance? You pay 100 million yuan, and let's call it a day. What? 100 million yuan? Although Qin Chong was the young master of the Qin family, he only had about 100 million yuan in his pocket money. If he lost all of it, how could he go out and indulge in debauchery in the future? Qin Haodong, you're blackmailing me. I don't know him at all. You can do whatever you want to him. You can even beat him to death, but it has nothing to do with me. He just had an ordinary friendship with that girl in bed. It was impossible for him to spend 100 million yuan on such a woman. Hearing this, the man with the golden chain trembled with fear and hurriedly cried, Brother-in-law, you can't do this. You must save me. Seeing this guy calling him brother-in-law, Qin Chong was so angry that he gritted his teeth and kicked him in the mouth again. Suddenly, the man's mouth swelled up, and his teeth fell to the ground. Qin Haodong said lightly, Young Master Qin, we're all sensible people. I don't want to talk nonsense with you. I just want to ask you whether you pay or not. If you pay, we'll forget about it. If you don't, I'll immediately take my men to the Qin family and smash it. Qin Chong had been in the outside world for many years, but it was the first time that he had met someone who wanted to fight the Qin family. But he didn't think that Qin Haodong was threatening him or joking. With the strength of the Tang sect, it was true that the Qin family could be crushed. If Qin Haodong really destroyed the Qin family, because he had slept with a woman outside, Qin Jian'eo would probably kill him in anger. The result would definitely be no better than the man with the golden chain. In the face of such a powerful threat, he had no choice at all. He gritted his teeth and said, Give me your bank card number. Qin Haodong turned to Su Hui and said, Give me your bank card. Su Hui didn't say much. She took out a bank card and handed it to Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong threw it back to Qin Chong. Qin Chong's face was livid, but he didn't dare to hesitate. He took out his mobile phone and began to transfer the money. Soon Su Hui's mobile phone rang. 100 million yuan had been transferred to her account. Qin Haodong nodded with satisfaction and said to Qin Chong, Take these people and get out of here. Chapter 730. Qin Chong waved his hand behind him, and the bodyguards came over and dragged the big gold chain out of the clinic. After going out, he looked at the wailing big gold chain with disgust and said to the head bodyguard behind him, Find a place where there is no one, break his limbs, and then throw him into the mountains to feed the wolves. After that, he looked at the clinic behind him with resentment, and then got in the car. First he shaved his head, then took Wei Yan ran away, and today he was blackmailed for 100 million yuan. At this moment, young Master Qin hated Qin Haodong to death, but he was not strong enough, so he dared not say anything. Although these people were driven away, the clinic had been smashed. Su Hui put up a sign that said it was closed for business. Qin Haodong called Ma Wenjue and asked him to arrange for someone to clean up the place and replace all the broken furniture with new ones. While they were busy, a taxi stopped in front of the door. Su Hongba got out of the car and walked into the clinic. After entering the door, he was delighted to see Qin Haodong. He said happily, Little Qin, you're here. I told you that you can't forget Hui Hui. Then he said to Su Hui, Girl, why did you call me here in such a hurry? At this time, Su Hui had already calmed down. She briefly told him what had happened to the big gold chain just now. After hearing this, Su Hongba immediately scolded, These damn hooligans, do they still care about the law? After that, he said to Qin Haodong, Little Qin, it's all thanks to you this time. Thank you for saving Hui Hui. But in the future, Hui Hui will be alone in the capital. You must take good care of her. Su Hui naturally knew the meaning of this. Her cheeks blushed and she lowered her head shyly. Well, I'll come here often. Qin Haodong nodded. Although he hadn't figured out how to deal with the relationship between him and Su Hui, he couldn't watch this girl be bullied in the capital. That's great. You're like a man. Hui doesn't forget you in vain. Su Hongba was very satisfied with Qin Haodong's attitude. Then he asked, by the way, little Qin, did you go to the medical college today? When are you going to class? Qin Haodong shook his head and said, Mr. Su, I don't think the medical college is suitable for me, so I turned it down. Turned it down? Su Hongba's face immediately darkened, and he said discontentedly, you promised me that you would go to the medical college to teach. Why did you change your mind? Do you think the school is too low? If that's the case, I can call Zhao Yonggang again and ask him to raise your salary. A talent like you deserves a higher salary. Su. He took out his cell phone and was about to call. Elder Su, this really isn't about the treatment. Qin Haodong. And Qin Haodong. Originally, he didn't want to mention this matter again, but the old man kept staring at him, so he could only tell the truth and tell him what had happened when he went to the capital medical college. After hearing that, Su Hongba's face was full of anger. He slapped the table and shouted, Zhao Yonggang is playing with me. Let's see how I'll deal with him. Then he stood up and shouted, little Qin, come with me to the capital medical college now. I'll see if he dares to refuse you again. Qin Haodong and Su Hui stopped the old man and asked him to sit down again. Then they said, Mr. Su, I don't think it's necessary to go to this kind of school. It's not in line with my original intention. You're right. I didn't expect him to become so snobbish after more than 10 years. Su Hongba said angrily. He doesn't want us to go, so we don't have to go. But you can't be lazy. I'll call Lao Wan of the Imperial University of Traditional Chinese Medicine now. We have a good relationship. You can go to his class. Su Hongba picked up his cell phone and called Wan Taisong, the principal of the Imperial University of Traditional Chinese Medicine. Wan Taisong had been in the field of traditional Chinese medicine for so many years, so he naturally knew Qin Haodong's reputation. When he heard that the medical sage was going to teach in his school, he immediately said happily, That's great. Thank you for introducing such a good talent to our university. To tell you the truth, our school is short of teachers now, and there are very few capable teachers. You're really a timely help. Hearing this, Su Hongba was in a good mood and said, Then it's a deal. I'll ask little Qin to report to you tomorrow morning. Wan Taisong quickly said, How can I do that? I have to invite the medical sage to teach in our school. Mr. Su, give me Mr. Qin's phone number. I'll go there now. Su Hongba was very satisfied with Wan Taisong's attitude and told him where he was. Half an hour later, a spirited old man walked into the clinic. Wan Taisong was less than 60 years old this year, but he worked day and night as a principal, so he looked older than ordinary people. Mr. Su, you've done our school a great favor this time. Wan Taisong greeted Su Hongba, and then turned to look at Qin Haodong. Is this Mr. Medical Sage? Qin Haodong said, Principal Wan, I'm Qin Haodong. Mr. Medical Sage, are you really willing to teach in our school? Wan Taisong had heard a lot of legends about Qin Haodong. He knew that although the man in front of him was dressed in ordinary clothes, he was definitely not short of money. Qin Haodong nodded and said, Well, I want to make some contributions to our traditional Chinese medicine. That's great, that's great. Wan Taisong said excitedly, Medical Sage can teach in our school. It can not only be used as publicity for recruiting students, but also improve the quality of teaching. It's really a great thing. They chatted for a while. After Qin Haodong explained his situation, Wan Taisong said, It doesn't matter. Whenever you have time, you can come and teach these students. If you have something to do, you can do it. In terms of treatment, I'll give you the treatment of a formal teacher. I'll pay you the salary and welfare according to the establishment of a professor. What do you think? From the bottom of his heart, he felt that this treatment was really unfair to Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong was the famous medical sage. But as a principal, this was the most authority he had. Qin Haodong shook his head and said, "Principal Wan, it's easy to talk about money. You can treat me like an ordinary teacher. I'm not going to your school for money. Also, don't call me medical sage. It sounds awkward. Just call me Little Qin." Wan Taisong said, "Dr. Qin, you're really noble. Then it's a deal. When do you want to come to our school to teach?" Qin Haodong said, "Tomorrow afternoon. Principal Wan can decide the specific time." Wan Taisong said, "Well, let's set it at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Mr. Qin will come to our school on time to teach." After finalizing the specific matters, he did not stay any longer. He turned around and went back to the school. Qin Haodong chatted with Su Hongba and Su Hui for a while. He really couldn't stand the way old man Su looked at his grandson-in-law. So he declined the invitation for dinner and returned to the Tang sect. After returning home, he chatted with his mother for a while, and then they walked into the restaurant together. In the past, the restaurant was always very lively, but today, it seemed much quieter. Only Wei Yinran, Zhao Qinggu, Han Jieyu and a few new girls were sitting at the table. Qin Haodong asked, "Why are there so few people? Where are Feng Wu and the others?" Zhao Qinggu said, "Today the master of the Yin family brought news. He said that he had something to discuss with Sister Feifei and asked her to go back to the Yin family." Wei Yinran said, "Sister Nailin and the others have reached a critical period of cultivation. They are cultivating in seclusion." As they spoke, a look of envy flashed in the eyes of the girls. Although they had also reached the 9th level of the Supreme Power Realm, they had just learned martial arts. They could not be compared with Feng Wu and Hu Xiaoxian in terms of state of mind and other aspects. Since Qin Haodong had set up the spirit gathering formation, the cultivation speed of the people of the Tang sect had accelerated a lot. In addition, with the supply of elixirs, Hu Xiaoxian and the others were getting closer and closer to the saint stage. Today they had started the final sprint. "Well, let's eat first." Qin Haodong asked them to sit at the table and was ready to eat. But at this moment, there was a loud bang outside, and then the whole restaurant shook. Qin Haodong was delighted. It seemed that one of the women was going to break through. He had thought of this when he was setting up the spirit gathering formation. At the same time, he set up a concealing formation to hide the aura of the entire Tang sect, in case someone broke through to the saint stage and caused too much noise. However, the concealing formation could only hide the aura of the outside, but it still caused a very big movement inside the Tang sect. The qi of heaven and earth was unprecedentedly violent. Qin Haodong no longer cared about eating. He flashed out of the restaurant and rushed in the direction of Feng Wu and the other seclusion. A whole row of practice rooms had been built in the backyard of the Tang sect. The rooms here were all reinforced by formations, so they were much stronger than other places. But even so, a room on the left had become dilapidated. The formations that had been set up before had all been washed away by the qi of heaven and earth. It was Feng Wu. It seemed that she was the first girl to break through the bottleneck of the saint stage. Qin Haodong added a few more formations in succession to protect the surrounding buildings. At this moment, there was another loud bang. It was Hu Xiaoxian, who was next to Feng Wu. It didn't take long for the violent roar of the qi of heaven and earth in the next few rooms. Nailin Wushuang, Nailin Wuxia, and Qi Wen'er had also broken through the bottleneck of the saint stage one after another. For a time, the qi of heaven and earth in the Tang sect was like a mad bull rushing around. Fortunately, Qin Haodong, a strong saint stage expert, suppressed it, so it didn't cause too much damage. It didn't take long for the qi of heaven and earth to gradually calm down. Feng Wu was the first to walk out of the room, followed by Hu Xiaoxian, Nailin Wushuang, Nailin Wuxia, and Qi Wen'er. In such a short time, they had increased by 5 masters at the saint stage. If other families knew about it, what would they think? Fortunately, he had set up the concealing formation before. The inside of the formation was earth-shattering, but the outside of the formation was calm, without any impact on the capital. Haodong, we finally broke through. When the girls saw Qin Haodong, They immediately rushed to him like happy birds. After reaching the saint's stage, they were astonishingly fast and surrounded him almost in the blink of an eye. At this moment, there was a loud bang in the city of the capital. Then the wind and clouds changed, and the chi of heaven and earth became violent and restless. These people had just broken through the bottleneck of the saint's stage, so they were naturally familiar with what had happened. It seemed that there were also people from other families breaking through the saint's stage. Feng Wu looked to the east and said, "It should be the Qin family. It seems that someone from the Qin family has broken through." Qin Haodong nodded and said, "The saint pill I auctioned last time was taken back by Qin Jian'eo. It seems that one of the two elders of the Qin family took the pill." He was right. This kind of abnormal phenomenon did appear in the Qin family. Chapter 731. Feeling the powerful aura emitted by Qin Jian'eo was ecstatic. The Yin family had Yin Feifei, and his family also had their own saint-level masters. They would not lose to the Yin family at all. Even without Qin Haodong's return, the Qin family had become one of the top families in the capital. They no longer had to obey anyone. At the same time, he was secretly glad that he had decisively bought the saint pill at that time. If other families knew about it, they would definitely regret it. If others knew that the saint pill was really effective, they would never be able to get it, let alone 500 million yuan. He took the other members of the Qin family and stood in front of Qin Zhan's room with joy, waiting for the first elder to come out of seclusion. Qin Chong packed up the big gold chain and then returned to the Qin family with his people in dismay. Before he got home, he felt the difference between heaven and earth. He had heard about the scene of breaking through to the saint level. He realized that his grandfather might be about to break through, so he immediately rushed into the Qin family excitedly. If his grandfather broke through the bottleneck of the saint level, he would be a saint-level master. In the future, he and his grandson would no longer be bullied by Qin Haodong. As soon as he rushed to Qin Jian'eo's side, the surrounding scene changed. The chi of heaven and earth dissipated, and Qin Jian'eo walked out of the room with a red face. What was different from the past was that his feet were in the air at this moment, about half a meter away from the ground. Flying in the air. This was the typical sign of a saint-level master. Only when one reached the saint level could he skillfully control the chi of heaven and earth. Congratulations on coming out of seclusion, First Elder. Qin Jian'eo and Qin Zhanfeng greeted him with joy. At the same time, Qin Chong rushed to Qin Zhan's feet crazily, hugged his legs and cried, "Grandpa, you must avenge me. I've been bullied by Qin Haodong. First he stole my girlfriend, and today he blackmailed me of 100 million yuan. How could he bully me like this?" Qin Jian'eo had been holding a grudge against Qin Haodong for shaving his head. At this time, when he heard his grandson crying, his face immediately darkened. "Qin Haodong, you've gone too far. I must teach you a lesson today." After that, he grabbed Qin Chong and flew into the air, rushing in the direction of the Tang sect. "Hey, great elder, don't be in such a hurry to leave." Qin Jian'eo wanted to stop Qin Zhanlong. Although they now had their own saint, Qin Haodong had Xinyuan Ligay of the Xinyuan Pavilion as his backer. It was better not to provoke him if possible. However, the speed of the saint was too fast. Before he could finish speaking, Qin Zhanlong had disappeared into the night sky with Qin Chong. Qin Chong was taken by Qin Zhanlong to walk in the air. After the initial panic, he felt the whistling wind around him, and was overjoyed. Was this the strength of a saint-level strong? With his grandpa's support, he didn't have to be afraid of Qin Haodong anymore. At the same time, the other major families in the capital also sensed the changes in the Qin family. They realized that the Qin family also had a saint-level expert, so they immediately sent their spies to observe. When they learned that Qin Zhanlong had come to the Tang sect to make trouble, they immediately sent people to the Tang sect. But this time, they came secretly. They were not as aboveboard as last time. They just sent people to hide in the dark and observe from a distance. A few minutes later, Qin Zhanlong and his grandson landed in front of the Tang sect. Without Qin Zhanlong's order, Qin Chong immediately rushed to the door and shouted arrogantly, "Qin Haodong, come out. I'm here to settle the score with you." At this time, he put his hands on his hips and was full of momentum. With his grandfather, who was a saint, as his backer, who else in the capital could do anything to him? In the future, Qin Chong would be the top young master in the capital. He could bully whoever he wanted and flirt with whoever he wanted. After he dealt with Qin Haodong, the Wei family would obediently send Wei Yinran to his bed. Qin Haodong returned to the restaurant with the girls. Before he could eat, he heard the shouting at the door. A sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. It seemed that the grandfather and grandson of the Qin family were really impatient. They had just broken through and came to the Tang sect to make trouble. However, a single saint was far from being able to match up to the Tang sect. "Let's go out and have a look first. We'll eat when we come back." He put down his chopsticks and took Feng Wu, the Nailan sisters, and the others to the gate of the Tang sect. Seeing Qin Zhanlong, who was full of momentum, Qin Haodong smiled and said, "Old Master Qin, congratulations on successfully breaking through to the saint realm." Seeing that Qin Haodong ignored him, Qin Chong immediately jumped forward and shouted, "Boy, don't talk nonsense. It's useless to flatter me. It's useless even if you kneel down to my grandfather. Let me tell you, today we must settle the old and new accounts. If you don't satisfy us, we will destroy your Tang sect today." As he spoke, he straightened his chest. The feeling of stepping on others with his strength was really refreshing. Qin Haodong looked at him and said with a sneer, "Then tell me, how do you want to settle the accounts?" Qin Chong took a look at the beautiful Feng Wu and the others and couldn't help swallowing hard. Then he said, "Send Wei Yinran back to me and compensate me with the women behind you. Then kneel down and kowtow to admit your mistake. Then pull out all your hair and compensate me with 1 billion yuan. Then this matter will be over. You have so many requirements." Qin Haodong sneered and said, "Tell me why." Qin Chong shouted arrogantly, "Because my grandfather is a saint. In front of a saint, you 9th-level supreme power masters are nothing. You are not qualified to negotiate with us at all." Qin Zhanlong did not see Yan Feifei, and he felt much more relaxed. Otherwise, the two of them were both at the saint realm. Although he was confident that he would not lose, he would not be able to gain much advantage. Now that Yan Feifei was not here, he could destroy the Tang sect in a flash. Last time, he had been beaten by these women and shaved his hair, which had always been regarded as a great shame. Thinking of this, he could not help saying with hatred, "Qin Haodong, don't you have many people? If you have the ability, you can beat me again." A playful smile appeared on Qin Haodong's lips. He looked at him and said, "That's what you said." Qin Zhanlong said with a proud face, "So what if I said it?" Qin Haodong said with a smile, "Then I'll satisfy you." Ha, 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 ha. I'm a saint now. No matter how many people from the Tang sect come, I'll kill them with one slap. Qin Zhanlong had just reached the saint realm. He liked the feeling of a cat playing with a mouse, so he was not in a hurry to make a move. Just as he was showing off happily, he suddenly saw a 10-centimeter high heel suddenly appear in front of him and kick him in the face. With a muffled bang, the kick was so hard and heavy that it directly sent Qin Zhanlong flying dozens of meters away. Qin Zhanlong's heart was full of horror. When he reached the saint realm, his protective gang qi had reached an extremely strong level. Even ordinary swords could not hurt him, but the kick just now had directly penetrated the protective gang qi, kicked out 2 of his teeth, and at the same time, his cheeks were swollen. How is this possible? Before he could come to his senses, a fist as white as jade appeared in front of him again. With a bang, it broke his nose bridge and blood suddenly sprayed out. Qin Zhanlong was furious. The momentum of the saint realm burst out. But soon he sadly found that his momentum was useless in front of these women in front of him. He was still beaten like a dog by the intensive punches and kicks. Qin Chong, who was next to him, was completely dumbfounded. He had thought that his grandfather would be able to sweep the Tang sect when he stepped into the threshold of the Saint Realm, but he didn't expect that he would still be beaten badly. What was going on with these women in front of him? Why were they so ruthless? They actually beat his grandfather so hard that he couldn't fight back. Could it be that they were also at the Saint Realm? But that was impossible. Qin Haodong looked at him with a smile. He didn't ask Hu Xiaoxian and the others to kill him, but he couldn't let the old man get away with it. Although there was no hair to shave, he could strip off his clothes. For a master of the Saint Realm, it was very easy to strip off his clothes. With the release of internal force several times, Qin Zhanlong's clothes were shaken into pieces and scattered in all directions. In the end, only his underpants were left. Qin Haodong didn't forget Qin Chong next to him. As soon as he waved his hand, Zhang Tinyu and the others rushed up and stripped off his clothes in a few seconds, leaving only his underpants. Okay, come back. Qin Haodong called Hu Xiaoxian and the others back. Now Qin Zhanlong was vomiting blood. If they continued to fight, the old man who had just broken through might really die. Grandpa, are you okay? Qin Chong ran over and helped Qin Zhanlong up. He had just broken through to the Saint Realm, but he was beaten like a dog and his clothes were stripped off. Qin Zhanlong felt extremely aggrieved. He opened his mouth and spat out another mouthful of blood. Qin Haodong glanced at the two of them and sneered. Get out of here. If there's a next time, I'll kill you without mercy. At this time, Qin Chong couldn't care about anything else. He carried Qin Zhanlong on his back and ran in the direction of the Qin family naked. After they left, Qin Haodong glanced at the spies hidden in the dark of the major families, smiled coldly, and then returned to the Tang sect with his people. With absolute strength, he was not afraid of what other families would do. Seeing that Saint Qin Zhanlong was beaten by Qin Haodong and vomited blood, these spies immediately rushed back and told their masters the news. After getting the news, the other 6 families were shocked. They didn't know how Qin Haodong and these women did it. Were they also at the Saint Realm? But then these people denied this speculation. If they succeeded in breaking through to the Saint Realm, it would definitely cause a strange phenomenon in heaven and earth. There was no movement in the Tang sect, so it was impossible for anyone to break through. But if they were not saints, how did Hu Xiaoxian and the others defeat Qin Zhanlong? After a heated discussion, everyone finally came up with an inference that Qin Zhanlong must have just broken through, and his cultivation was unstable. And the Qin family made a sudden attack and defeated them with more people. Or it could be said that these women had some special joint attack skills, so they defeated Qin Zhanlong. In any case, the powerful strength of their side had been completely shown. Even if Yan Feifei didn't make a move, they could still defeat a saint. They definitely couldn't afford to provoke them. The next day, Zhao Yonggang came to school early to work. According to the notice received from the Ministry of Health yesterday, the World Medical Association would visit their school at 10 o'clock this morning and attend Professor Qin's class. He was very confident about this visit. He had made sufficient preparations yesterday. He believed that today's reception work would definitely satisfy Xiao Weiman, the deputy minister, and the World Medical Association. At 9 o'clock, he came to the school gate and saw that the preparation work was ready. The selected male and female students were standing on both sides. The school gate was full of beautiful flower baskets, and the invited professional band was also in place. They were waiting for the arrival of the delegation. Zhao Yonggang nodded with satisfaction. At this time, several other vice presidents and the directors of the school also rushed over. The World Medical Association was coming for an inspection. No one wanted to be left behind in this kind of show. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.